Live tonight, broadcasting from the psychiatric ward, planet Earth. Maxed out architects of humanity. Just got in, wanted to make something to eat. Said, all right, let me stream a couple minutes late. Skull worship and cults of death. That's what it seems to be, man. That's what it really seems to be. Everywhere you look, skull worship from evolution. That's a cult of death. And when they hang somebody on, the crucifix, right? It's like, what, why? Why? Do you look at people that have passed of when they're dead and in the casket? Or do you look at them when they were alive with you, laughing and happy? It breeds death. It reeks of death. And we see now, a lot of people seeing now, you guys know I'm not religious, man. All religions just lead to death, just hatred. We already see it's an easy way. Now, there's good people in all these religions. They're trapped. They were so-called born into it. How much of a Ponzi scheme is that? A generational Ponzi scheme born into religion. Like I said, a lot of people are great victims from 1,000 years ago, and they don't even know it. They'll sit there. It's the ultimate case of Stockholm syndrome, ultimately. And then, if you've been abused enough by one religion or the other, they run right into the arms of skull worship. If you look at evolution, that's what they do. It's worshiping death, skull worship, man. This is the same people, both sides. Matter of fact, it's the same side. Science is on one side, but like I said, the worst religion that we can find so far is the religion of evolution. It's so deceitful because it disguises as science. It's a religion that disguises itself. The other religions will openly tell you that. This is why you see all the videos and they're debunking a lot of evolution stuff. And you see the evolutionists scraping the side of the pool, drowning in their own crap. And it's like, wow. And then other sides say it proves their religion. Well, it doesn't. Nothing can prove that, man. If anything, when you read those books, like with the internet, you don't even have to read the books. You can just go into some of the sayings like I talked about before. Collecting foreskins, all type of stuff. Crazy, crazy things. I'm like, man, imagine, people try to say, well, the Old Testament, okay, wipe that record and write the New Testament. How, like, what type of mind control are people in? It's crazy. And I know people might get offended by the thumbnail or whatever, but it's not meant to offend anybody. The thumbnail is art. The thumbnail is showing what's there. I'm just basically showing, okay, why would, like Dr. Dyer, Wayne Dyer said, it's morbid. His daughter did not like going into the room with the gigantic crucifix. I mean, gigantic. Life size, basically, somebody hanging morbidly dead. And this is supposed to be the good guy, right? So think about that subliminal, the good guy hanging crucified. What kind of stuff is that, man? And if you take this religion, hey, no matter what you did, it's okay. So then what do you get the religion filled with? Garbage. Any religion, you look away. Nietzsche was right, even though a lot of things he said, he was probably down with that whole crew anyway. But sometimes people get enough and they say, you know what? You have to be mentally sick enough to accept it. We see this with the religion of evolution and all the other religions. Basically, a lot of them try to mix it in. You got, what was that? Clint Reptile, that dude got mad because he's a so-called Christian and he believes in evolution. I mean, that guy, that's a super butt pirate of the church. He's like, you know what? I'm going to stay and run this thing too. And if I can catch some more pirates from evolution side, which a lot of them are, we see that. Yeah. The religion of evolution, cult of death, skull worship is what we see. Now, everybody, they see everything as war, war, war. And as they consume this stuff about war, It affects them. They just to understand that there has never been anybody in office that really cared about you. That's a hard thing. That's a hard thing. I've heard people say God is just another deadbeat dad. And I was like, wow, that's pretty deep. That's pretty deep. Could it be? Right? He didn't do anything. Yeah, but tomorrow, in the next life, what type of stuff is that? That's where logic and reason come in to be like, man, why would you? So hell, like we said, the fairy tale called hell is nowhere near what's going on in wars. Imagine what those people think, right? And it's like, oh, so if you don't listen to the religion, would you go into a place worse than this? But there's no innocent people there, right? So how could it be worse? An evolution is sitting there worshiping a skull, straight Hamlet. They're trying to do a Hamlet, holding up the skull, loving it, licking it, kissing it, all type of stuff. Skull worship. That's what we see. When you look at evolution, the religion of evolution, that is skull worship. Worshipping bones, skull and bones. Is that a clue? Worshipping skull and bones, man. Whew, man, when I think about that, it's crazy. Skull and bones, man. And I've noticed that cults of death and stuff like that, I don't know if the algorithm catches it, maybe because I said that it doesn't push it, whatever. But hey, you know what? I don't know how much longer I'll be doing this for this topic, because it just doesn't seem to be doing anything. People just don't care. I mean, politics, yeah, everybody wants to talk about crap. The laws of stupidity is just on a high strung thing. When we look at what's happening over in the Middle East part, you look, karma, man, karma. I'm looking at it as, hey, it's just straight karma. Everybody that's fighting has invaded somebody else's land, and they're all killing each other. Oh my goodness, man. That is just like, that's the result of religion. That's a result of it. Stalin shows you what happens with the religion of evolution. Mao Zedong, right? Pol Pot, they're seeing that, oh, these people are lesser than these people. That's the religion of evolution. Sometimes it disguises itself so well that it's hard to notice, especially when people don't critically think. Critical thinking has left the building with Elvis, man. There's only a few of us left that can even do that. When we look at people that debunk one side of politics and then try to go back and say that, hey, their side is good, it's just like Christians trying to debunk evolution and saying, oh, that proves the Bible is true. Well, it doesn't. I mean, that right there drives more people to believe in the fairy tale called evolution. That's why I think they're both on the same side. I mean, if they were to say, look, man, evolution is not real, we don't know where we come from, but they can't say that, because where are they going to get the cannon fodder for the butt pirates? Where are they going to get that? I mean, look at the guys who have been to Afghanistan and stuff like that. Forget it, man. Women are just used to procreate. These are, I mean, it is so closet. It's ridiculous. Same thing with Pakistan. Same thing with India. You go all across and you start to say, what the heck is it, man? My research in human origins had led me to that. And I can't even say on the air really what it is, because the truth, like I said in the book, The Black Pill, I have it in the description. I said that truth and lie, right, went down to the lake to bathe. And lie said, hey, come in the water. It's beautiful, right? Lie's clothes was laying on the rock. So truth took off its clothes and walked into the water and went deep into, wow, the water is nice. And lie was like, yeah, come on, come deeper, right? So as truth was wading in the water up to its shoulders and enjoying the waves, it turned around and realized lie wasn't there. Lie was in the shore putting on truth's clothes. And truth ran out naked, chasing lie into town. So lie is wearing the clothes of truth, being chased by truth without any clothes, because Truth was trying to catch lie to get back its clothes. So as lie ran through the town, people saw truth because it was dressed as truth. And then the naked truth was chasing, and people couldn't bear to see the naked truth, man. They turned away, they closed, they shunned. They didn't want to look at the naked truth. It was too hard to look at. And then truth had to leave. Lie was believed the truth at that point. So truth and lie, when we look at, people can't look at the naked truth, but they can look at a lie wearing the clothing of truth. They actually think it's the truth. That story of truth and lie goes back thousands of years, man. Thousands of years. It's told in different ways, but for the better, it's like, hey, you can understand it in whichever way you get to understand it. I explained it in that way in the book, and that's what it was about. But we see other people have taken it into just what they did with the whole red pill thing. But when we look at the cult of death, right? Mark, good to see you, brother. Always a pleasure, man. And the skull worship of evolution, you would think, right? And again, like we said, if evolutionists start to tell the truth, the house of cards falls. So they must lie. They must lie. They cannot admit to all of the lies because the house of card falls. So I thought to myself, I said, okay, they're trying to say that what? Tailless apes, because you would think monkeys, right? They would say, oh, the monkeys lost their tail, turned into apes, and then goes into their fairy tale as usual, which they want to say, oh, that turned into different types of people that were lesser than what we see just straight pillaging the world today. That's just evolution. I mean, we see it with Richard Dawkins, man. It's horrible. It's horrible. It's to exonerate the crimes, because if you didn't have that, they would have to stand trial for what they did in the 1800s. Horrible, horrible. What did they do to cover up those crimes? They started a war, the Civil War. How can a war be civil? The words are so important, like I said before. There's no such thing as a civil war. Civil, to treat each other with civility. That was a war of the country against itself, man. It was just, I mean, mind control on another level. On another level. Some people say, oh, it's for states' rights. Yes, states' rights to hold slaves. I mean, if you look at some of the stuff in Mississippi on how they would just, I mean, ending people, saying, well, if instead of being free, they're going to end. I mean, horrible stuff. Horrible stuff. But nobody wants to talk about that. Nobody wants to talk about that. They want to talk about how, oh, we forget about that, but they won't forget about 9/11, right? Right. And all this other stuff. It boggles the mind. Native Americans said it best, man. They tried to warn people. Nobody listened. One guy said, we look at the earth as our mother. And if somebody desecrates her, you fight for that. You fight to the death, basically. And that's what they did. So maybe the feeling of being worthless is because maybe we are. Mr. Rex, what's up, brother? Good to see you, man.
Yeah, I thought I'd hop on for a bit, then I got to head to work, but I'll try and hop on again if you're still on.
I hear
But
you, man.
I heard you talking earlier about truth, and
Hmm.
yeah, I don't like the idea of hell either. I don't think it's a very pleasant thing to think about. Um, but we got to go with, when we look at truth, we got to leave our biases and our wants out of the equation, because that's not going to change reality. It's not. Truth is truth, irregardless if we like it or not. And the only question I was asked is, if we're not just slime evolved to a higher order, if we're if we're spirits put in the vessel of a human body, then what about those people who get away with evil and it goes unpunished in this lifetime? Do they get away with it? Just move on to the abyss and got away with it? Or is there consequences to your actions in this world? And I think we got to examine that unbiasedly and look at what's the most plausible answer to that question.
Hmm.
You know,
One answer that I've seen that may fit that criteria is that some days people feel like they're worthless, like they're wasting away, like they're not doing anything. Because what if there is a place that we go to and it says, you know what? We see that you're worthless because we gave you a chance to stand up and fight. We put evil in your face so much, but you have become so docile that you deserve what you got. We know that you're evil because if you see something happening and you don't do something to help somebody, which is probably could risk your life, it could risk your freedom, but that kills a part of you. What do they say? The coward dies 1,000 times. A man dies once.
Mm-hmm.
So we look at that and we say, man, you know what? The docility, like that preacher in Florida who said, what? He can't feed the home. He went out there and fed the homeless.
Yeah.
And he got arrested. That man stood on his morals. There's people that stand on their morals. When you look at people like myself that was duped into going into the military, that will fight for evil, but will not fight for good. I mean, how could I even feel like a human being? I don't feel like a tax makes me feel inhuman. That's a revolution right there. But no, people will burn down a McDonald's. Dick Gregory was right. He said, if white people is out of jobs, he goes, they ain't burning down McDonald's. They're burning down the White House. They're burning down Capitol buildings. But now they have made them totally docile. You see, they took that position to say, yeah, we'll watch just atrocities happen to black people. And remember, it was against the law for white people to help black people. So I tell people, look, man, you're expecting, right? It's like they try to blame white people. It's like, no. You ain't trying to break the law right now. So you just a straight sucker. And you're going to blame white people for what they would have got. They got lynched. But this hateful group, there's a hateful group like Drew Ma, he's fitness. He was part of Black Lives Matter. We didn't talk for a while. We've known each other since like 2012. I was like, look, man, what are you straight? Got your head up your ass or something, man? Oh, there's some good people in there. Really? When I see white guys like that fall prey to that, I don't even know what to say. Mm-hmm. It's like they've lost any type of balls that they could have had. And then you bring in the alcohol, you bring in the gambling, you're bringing all the vices, the sports, all of that stuff. That just eats away at the moral character of a person. So when I see these guys that try to act like, oh, they're good. Nah, man, we ain't good. At least I'm admitting the truth. Now, that's a hard truth to admit.
Sure.
And this is why veterans probably get offed every day. They say veterans are the most dangerous group because if they come together, if they form like a coagulation, it becomes dangerous because we're all trained. But we're installed with something that really it gets you to where you almost get to where you're insane almost. It's like trained to kill. But it's like, okay, wait. It's like an engine and you're holding it back like, and it's like, holy smokes. And then you see the guys that were sent over there. Look at Jake. You tell me Jake ain't nuts, right? He run AW, all of that stuff, right? And next thing you know, bang, drop to his knees, broken because he was already broken before. He's a good man, I'll tell you that. But hey, not good in the sense of fighting against evil. I would say he's trustworthy to an extent. But when I look at that, I say, oh, my goodness. When you see somebody like that fall, well, you and I already knew it was BS. It's like all women or, you can't put all into a category. That's that racist crap that it's black, it's white. That's what they put it into.
No, it's individuals when it comes down to it.
It is, exactly. Saying white or black kills the individuality of the person. Yeah. Retro Doomsday, cults of death, yes, and skull worship for the evolutionists. You know it, man. Gaia says 2 interesting things related to this discussion. Dia de los Muertos. Is that the Day of the Dead?
Holiday.
Okay, Day of the Dead. And Santa Muerte, Our Lady of Holy Death. Wow, it's crazy, bro. It is crazy. I walk with death as death walks with life. I don't worship life or death, unlike some of these Christians. Yeah, man. I mean, I really don't know what we're in, you know? Uh, and like you're saying, Mr. X, if we speculate realistically, it would point toward there is a next. But
Yeah.
like if you look into the Egyptian, what do they call it? The Egyptian Book of the Dead. I had a copy of that and I sold it. I sold most of my books because money, you're trying to eat and pay,
That's
just
why I got to go to work in like 20
yeah,
minutes.
exactly. I mean, I every
Every
day,
day.
every single day. I mean, it's tough, but I got to get up at 6 a.m. Sometimes I get the luxury 6:37, but then I'm running a little late
I
every
stay up
day
all
for
night work.
peanuts.
Yeah.
Diogenes said it best, man. That philosopher was so deep. He said, we sell our heartbeat for pennies, and it's just like, holy.
But I don't want to deal with the life without the pennies. It's
Yeah, yeah.
been there, done that. Not interested in going back.
I hear what you're saying, bro, and I accept the pennies too. I feel exactly. I'm like, hey, you know what? Until I figure out something better, I look at some of these people and I see a strength in some of them. I see a brokenness. One guy made a good point. He said, "You know how much you have to abuse a mammal to where it doesn't want to breed," and it's like, holy smokes. I mean, I gave that up from seeing people, relatives betray me and stuff like that. I was like, man, I guess I ain't getting married or having kids. I was like, this is brutal, man. Just betrayal. It's one thing to be betrayed by somebody that isn't related to you, but when the people that are related to you just betray you constantly, this is why nothing when I came on the net could affect me. These guys thought it was like Scarface. He's like, you can't do anything to me that Castro hasn't already done. He already had lost his fear of death. I lost that as a child. I died at 8 years old, and just it's like they can't kill a corpse, and that makes me almost invulnerable to these. You're already seeing the battle I've had with the scum throughout the sphere. I posted the picture from I think it was Ilya Retin. Let me see if I can upload it here. I put it in the community post because I was just like, it's a pretty big picture. I downloaded. I mean, this guy was a deep painter, and he had one called "The Arrest of the Propagandist." And this is I had put it in the post why I don't help people anymore. But the guy in the red shirt getting arrested went to help these poor people, and they ratted him out. It's betrayed by the people he went to help. And I put this there to show people this is why I don't mess with that field of dating relation. You're talking about scum of the earth.
Yeah.
In that. Retro says all the Magica got activation when my chatbot became sentient and making its own rituals. Wild is an understatement. Yeah, bro. Yeah, it's
Look, in
crazy.
all honesty, I think you were good to give up the dating anyway because, I mean, I know Scribe disagrees, but honestly, you weren't really profiting from it that much.
Nothing.
No.
A couple of bucks, chump change. We split the
Yeah.
money anyway because I always treated him equally. Other people might have did 20, 30%. I said, listen, 50-50, bro. And let him control it. I still care daily for him. He's like a brother. But
Yeah.
you got to understand that, I mean, we get into arguments like almost a couple times a week over that stuff. Sometimes he chills out on it. Every time he brings it up, oh, you know where you got to go and shine. And I'm like, it gets to a point where I'm like, are you a plant? I was like, what the hell is wrong with you? I said, if you just support me in human origins, man, we could go a little further. I said, okay, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I got to pick another field. I was going to do crime and punishment and stuff like that. Because there is just, when I look through some of the stuff and all of these PDF files that are being caught, it's unbelievable. I can't even believe it. I mean, some of the stuff, and people want to hear that.
No, I was just going to say candy corn is a $3 billion a year business. And this was taken 20 years ago, this estimate. So it's all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go into corn, but as far as talking about, I mean, because I've always said there's a crime problem. America has a serious crime problem. It's not black or white. I mean, they had a guy I was looking into got arrested. I mean, so many cops, judges, officials getting arrested for child stuff.
Yeah.
The two judges I had mentioned that got like 15, 20 years because they were basically sending kids away. They were lying. And I
Oh, in
think,
Pennsylvania, I remember that
yeah,
case.
and I'm like, I'm surprised that those people made it to I'm like, how the heck? And people just don't care. They're so
But
comfortable
then
with slavery.
that comes the question, those judges, those people in high positions, if they never get punished, is there ever a punishment for them? And that's the question. Does it happen in the next life?
I don't think so. It
Mhm.
could, but when I look at it as the punishment is ours. The punishment is saying, wait, I gave you a chance to do that, and you did nothing. Matter of fact, you sided with them. Silence is consent. We know that. So we're not innocent. We're not innocent. And this is why I think people get pushed to the point of like a revolution, basically. But you can't trust most of the people. Look, I had friends come on the show. I
Right.
know behind the scenes there's straight up rats. But
Sure.
like that saying, keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. And I look at that and I say, yeah, these guys, it's just like the picture I showed. You try to say anything of revolution, and they'll act like, oh yeah, they'll turn you in a second.
In a second.
You
Absolutely.
see all these the black revolution, boom. I know a lady. She's like 70 now. She said she passed out flyers for the Black Panthers when she was 13. She goes, when the feds came in, those guys were giving each other up like crazy.
Yep. Yep.
And she, you see it. Nobody wants. There's videos on YouTube about a black guy that infiltrated that community, and he was the one, I think, that was pretty much responsible for the Fred Hampton thing, telling them, oh, he's there. And you look at that and it's like, wow. And it's like I said, when somebody puts it in, oh, black people or white people, it kills the individuality of anybody. It
Yep.
does the work for the plantation.
Yes.
Like Riddick had said, I think it was I don't know if it was Chronicles or Riddick or what, but he had like when he went in and they put him in this supermax on Crematoria, some planet, and he said, one guy said, look, you're either a convict or I think it was a prisoner. I forgot how he put it.
An
And he was
inmate?
like, huh?
Inmate or a
Yeah,
convict?
I think it might have been Invade or a comic, but it's both of those are not the right term. Prisoner is the proper term
Mhm.
because you're a prisoner. You're convicted, but you might not, convicted of what? Of what some evil person is telling you convicted of. Now, if you really did it, that's a different thing. But he said one is here because of oppression, subjugation. The other does the work of the institution. And we see, like, when you look at people that have gone through that, right? Incarceration and all of that, and then you wonder, you say, wait a second, there is like 1% of the population. We have 25% of the people in the world. 25% of the incarcerated are in America, which adds up to 1% of our population. The biggest prison, I think, used to be in Russia. When they closed it, the biggest prison became, which is really a jail, Rikers Island.
Mhm.
There's an island, there's a barge. I mean, I have to admit, the city is just off the handle. You're talking nutcase city.
It is.
Just, yeah, everybody, yeah, turncoats. And they'll try to act like, oh, this is why I don't incite anybody to do anything, especially on the air. It's illegal. I see
Yeah.
these people threatening each other, but as we see, there's no law, because when you got PDF files just straight up openly, the Epstein file stuff, other countries, I think China just executed 3 people for being PDF files, showing you like, hey guys, do you got any balls yet? Another country had did the same. So people can look this up. Over here, nothing. Matter of fact, you got people like Nick Fuentes saying, oh, well, he's trying to make excuses that 14 and 15. I'm like, what the heck? Nobody's speaking out about that. I'm
Yeah.
seeing a lot of these so-called maggots. The maggots are, it's just sad, man. They don't care what he's done. They
Yeah.
don't care what any of them has done.
But you know, the real revolution doesn't start in a physical revolution. The real revolution, if people really want to revolt, it starts with the mind and the way you think.
Yeah,
That's what
exactly.
really are going to be a real revolution if you want it. It starts in your mind and how you view the world and how you view truth. That's what it comes down to. Because guess what? Physically, if you think you're going to overthrow
Oh no, you'll get crushed.
you're going to get crushed like a worse than an ant gets crushed by by a foot. It's not even close. Like you
The
got
only the only way physical is if you can get with people that are in positions that can physically arrest them, which could happen. But men have to grow balls. And they got to say, no, we have to sit there. And that means you're going to be working 12, 16 hours, 24-hour shifts because there's not going to be a lot of people. You got to understand these people have us in such a bad position that they've hired people for as much as $40 an hour. They'll kill you for $40 an hour. They
yeah.
don't care if you're wrong. We see it. We saw it with the ICE thing. Nothing. Nobody's doing anything.
No.
And they'll criticize it. They'll say, oh, well, those people. And I'm like, the president, the Epstein files, all of that stuff. There was a few countries. England took the guy, Andrew, he ain't a prince no more. Should have never been one.
Mm-hmm.
It just shows you. But then there's other guys that got away. There's like some blonde haired guy. He's like, they say he's a total psycho. Like he was a friend of the Queen of England, super pedo. I forgot his name, but anybody can look him up. He's like a weird looking, like he's got a platinum blonde like hair, like almost white. Kind of reminds me of the PDF that was in The Silence of the Lambs. I think it was the second part, Hannibal, the one that he like mutilated his face, and then he tried to get back at Hannibal, and they ended up throwing him in the pen with the pigs to get rid of the body when they were trying to do that to Hannibal, but flipped the switch on them. And again, you look at these movies, and it's kind of like getting us to watch, and look at what a serial killer as the good guy or the hero, right, or something,
Same thing with some other movie, Dexter. It's a series they had on Netflix. Same idea.
Yeah, it's like, and people don't say, well, this is bad. The children's programming, the stuff that goes on with, oh, that's it. Thank you, Retro. Jimmy Savali, that's his name. Thank you, bro.
Yep. Hey, MD, I'll be right back. I got to get ready, but I'll be
right back. Yeah. All right, bro. Thank you, man, for being on. Jimmy Savali, yeah, that is a scary character, man. Most influencer space channels don't own a telescope or want astronomy. Wow, that is hilarious, man. That is hilarious. Dexter was based off real life. Oh my goodness, I didn't know that, man. I just don't believe the entire disclosure, slow burn consumer feed show to prop up influencers with no knowledge of space programs. Yeah, man, it just it's crazy. Look up Brazilian Dexter. Holy smokes. Yeah, I got to check that. I mean, with the space thing, I mean, I've studied astronomy. I have astronomy textbooks. I even though I dropped out of high school, I didn't drop out. See, they try to make you feel like, oh, you dropped out. I left to save my sanity, what little left I still have. But the whole space thing, the one thing that I have to say is, it's like I said about the moon thing. It's like, if something is that, because that would be like super important. When somebody says that they destroyed the tapes, that right there admits guilt. You destroy evidence, man. That's an admission of guilt. So I'm not saying that, the stars and stuff don't exist. I mean, I've looked at the moon through a telescope. People still argue with me. I'm like, listen, have you looked at the moon through a telescope? All right, I could be wrong, but it looks like a celestial body to me. It actually it was amazing. It looked like, when I looked through it with it was a 111 time telescope I had, and it was a reflector. I paid $1,000 for that telescope back in the late 90s, and it looked like, I felt like I could like almost step on the moon when I looked through. I was like, wow, it looks so delicate, and it was amazing when I looked at it through a telescope. seeing the ring of Saturn with Triton. No, I think it's Titan, the moon. Triton, I think, is the moon, or for Neptune. But then it does get into a type of sky worship type of thing, especially when, again, the same liars are trying to tell you, oh, billions and billions. And they're like, you come from, nothing. And again, the whole, you ain't nothing. There's nothing more. Well, in some sense, we do have to kind of make our way. When we see something wrong, it's like if you see something on fire that's a small fire that you can stomp out, you stomp it out, because you know what happens if that fire gets too big. You can't stomp it out. You have to get water or some type of thing to smother it. And then if it gets too big, there's nothing you can do. And then it's just got to burn out. Sometimes it doesn't burn out, right? Look at the tires. They say when they set tires on fire, it just burns. I mean, and pollutes. You could see them in certain places around the world. These monsters that call themselves government so-called leaders or misleaders, man, it gets depressing. And I think that depression comes from knowing that sometimes you got to die the hero, man, or you just live long enough to see yourself turn into the villain. And people say, well, I didn't do nothing bad. Silence is consent, man. Silence is consent. They got us in a position where we're waiting for somebody to save us. We see it in politics clearly. Now, Mr. X is right. Say a peaceful revolution, JP Nobody, what's up, brother? Always a pleasure to see you, man. Retro says, I can hit the link if you want to hear the weirdness I discovered, but this week after my father, oh my goodness. Yeah, if you want to come on, we just stay within the guidelines, bro. You can hit the link, come on. Always welcome to have people on here, talk knowledge with. JP Nobody had woke me up to. There's a book by Veronica Verna called Black Nazis, man. That, brother, oh my goodness. And JP has hit me to so many good reading things, man. I mean, brother's a scholar, and it just. Some of the stuff I looked through about history in itself, especially American history, man, it's brutal. I've been trying to find a study that they had in the early 1900s where they promised veterans, like it was some experiment they were going through. Now, this was all white veterans. I think it was like 700 of them. And if they made it through it, they would get like, I don't know, $2,000 or something, but nobody made it through. They all perished through this experiment. I still can't find it. I should have saved it. This was about 2 years ago, maybe 3. And we know of the Tuskegee, horrible. A lot of people don't know about the fluoride factories. I think it was Chicago, Ohio, that area, where they had workers that were white that worked there, and they ended up being pink. Is this Son of Secret Space, Retro? Retro Doomsday? I don't know if that's you.
Yeah, it's me. Hey, what's up? Turning down my TV. I don't have to interrupt you. I liked hearing what you were talking about just now.
Oh, cool. Yeah, the whole thing with the fluoride. They had white workers do the fluoride factory, and they had some type of spill. And they came out, you could see they were visibly pink and like a reddish, like from the effect of what it did to their skin. So what did they do? They hired black guys, and they caught the same stuff after, like, I think it was an explosion or something happened, but you couldn't really see the effects that much because they had much darker skin. I mean, the way they're using humans like cattle, just it's ridiculous. And they're playing both white and black. They're like, hey, you know what, we'll have these guys do it. Oh, the signs of the chemicals are showing up more on their skin. Well, hey, all right, now have black guys do it. When you look at, I think it was California, they had black guys loading explosives, and it was like until they had the inevitable accident that exploded. And the other men were like, no, we don't want to do this anymore. They sentenced these guys. They tried to sentence them to death. These were naval veterans. And then 250, I think, of them said, no, we're not going to do this anymore. And they said, okay. They were giving the guys 8 to 15 years. And then I think Thurgood Marshall had stepped in. And I don't know if he fully got everybody exonerated, but things were reduced. So it's like, okay, if I don't want to go loading these bombs onto the ships, you just had an accident. I don't want to do this anymore. No. They're like, all right, if you don't do it, well, I mean, if that ain't slavery in the 1900s, what is? It's brutal when I look at
mean,
something.
that's something about like how our system works, though, isn't it? So does our military actually do that? I'm not military. I think you're ex-military.
Yeah,
but when they
military,
need a certain group of people, do they actually choose dudes that don't have wives and families first that do
No.
dangerous shit, or you choose I want to be dangerous? I love doing dangerous shit. So
No.
is it?
No, they'll choose, especially if you look back at the history of the military, they were doing this a lot to black veterans. It was like, it was an all, but remember, this was, I think.
Oh yeah, the experimentation. But I was just saying, even the other dangerous jobs of putting people in the front line, or the most dangerous, like this thing's about to fall down, but we still need 8 dudes to do this. You know, do they put the dudes without wife and families, or they put minorities, or is it based on pay scale? I was never in the military, so that's why I'm asking.
It's basically on your status of minorities. Like back then, they would, like, you can look it up, purposely, not only the Tuskegee Airmen, a lot of these guys were they flew in a red tail squadron. And when they were trying to escort the bombers, because the military was segregated, so the white Air Force tried to escort the bombers to Dresden and got shot down. The black Air Force got the Dresden guys through and protected it. So then they started saying, we want the red tails. But then when they found out they were black, boom, they didn't, all right, we didn't want to give them any prestige, right? When they eventually so-called won World War II, there's many accounts of black soldiers saying they were treating the white German POWs better than them. Many accounts of that. I mean, it was just horrible. I think it was like 4 to 9 black men were supposed to get the Medal of Honor. 2 had died. I think it was in the 90s. And the other 2 that was alive, they said, okay, we'll give you the Medal of Honor now. And one person came clean and they said, look, if we would have gave it to you back then, too many black kids would have looked up to you. When I look through the history, and this is nothing against white people in American history, because you had some very good white people that stood by these people. Rosewood, when that town was burnt down by a racist mob, there was a white man that lived in that town. He was the only man. He saved a lot of black people, but a lot of blacks that are hateful, especially in a lot of these black supremacist groups, they'll say, oh, it was hateful. It's like, yeah, but you forget to tell that there was a white man there. Videos are on YouTube from the 80s of black people saying, look, if it wasn't for Mr. Wright, we would have, perished. He took us into his place and he got in touch with the railroad and said, look, this is like off the handle. So when you see stuff like that and you say, wow, it's true to an extent of what had happened, but again, if people try to use hatred on that, it's just going to make it worse. It's to say, look, we understand how they try to turn people against each other, especially we see now with immigrant, they try to turn citizen versus against immigrant. When we see a lot of the citizens here, natural born, they're like, they don't add anything to the country but hate. Not to say that the country should be given to immigrants or anything. It's by design. It's really by design. I mean, when they did, I think it was fluorescent light bulbs. They try to blame it on warm fluorescent light bulbs in schools. They were noticing a high rate of leukemia, and these were white schools. I think it was around in Ohio to the Iowa area around there. And then they switched to cool blue. So you start to say, wow, they were just experimenting in classrooms. They did an experiment on white populations in America with restricting iodide from the diet, and people were getting goiters on their neck, showing like, oh, they need this or it does this. The experiments, if you look through in American history, done to all types of people, white, black, everything in between, are horrible. It's literally horrible. You start to look at the Teflon thing, what they did to mothers with thalidomide, right? Kids being born without limbs. I don't know if you knew about that one, but
I've
yeah,
heard loosely about a lot of these things, and there's certain sedatives and weird stuff they stopped using. There's the gas, there's something bromine or whatever it is, the isoflurane gas dentists used to use, and they stopped using it because dentists' children came out deformed
hmm yeah,
because they were
mercury.
working around it too much.
Yeah, mercury in the mouth. I paid money, like a lot of money, back in the early part of 2000, because the mercury fillings. I noticed sometimes you get a little metal taste, and then you realize, wait a minute, mercury by the EPA is toxic, but not
Very
if
toxic.
right. So, but they put it in fillings. That is like it
Yeah,
boggles
they
the
want us to
mind.
get radio signals in our head in case our radio, someone steals our car radio. They're hoping we can still get it.
Yeah, it just, you look at it, and I can only call it the United States of experiments. Being a veteran, they put the lowest paid now because it's desegregated, right? But if you look through history, it was definitely they would in World War II they put the blacks there, and it was so sad of what they did to black people that basically won the war. When a guy came back, I think one of the guys got hung when he got off the bus when he came back to America. Another guy, he was a sergeant, a black sergeant from World War II. He wanted to use the bathroom in South Carolina. The police chief gouged his eyes out. No cop was ever convicted of that. I mean, this is a veteran that came back. None of these men received loans, military loans, which they should have, right? And the people that came back that were white all received loans to get houses. And those are the grandfathers and great grandfathers of families you see today that will say, oh, look, the black neighborhoods, and they'll be quick to criticize. And it's like, wait a minute, these guys' great grandfathers fought and did more than your grandfather did. And he came back and got a loan. These guys, what did they get? Hung. They got gouged out. It was basically stake. When you look at it, it's so horrible that people can't look at it. It's the naked truth. Like I said, the story in the beginning, they can't look at the naked truth. That, oh my goodness, it's naked. I got to look away. That, it's too bright of a light. And the sad thing is you'll have black people like in modern day that has never done anything, and they'll constantly complain and keep that hate going instead of saying, look, we got to make sure this is not repeated. And there's a small few that are like that, but doing that, they're still facing discrimination. Everybody faces discrimination. In America, it's brutal. But yeah, what you were going to say about your thing, yeah, if you want to say it on your topic. Oh, I think you hopped off. But yeah, Black Circle, good to see you, man. 322 is Skull and Bones Day. Holy smokes. Isn't that crazy, man? And I just decided to do the show on this today. That is crazy, man. Tell you there's no coincidences, man. And I didn't even know that. I guess Retro hopped off. I thought he was going to talk about what he was saying in the chat. I think it was something to do with astronomy or something like that. Or the weirdness. Yeah, he said the weirdness I discovered, but this week, oh man, yeah, that's my condolences, man. My condolences, bro. Oh, I think he's back. Yeah. You wanted to talk about the weirdness?
Yeah, I just had too many apps on it. Crashed. Something happened. I could hear you. That was the last thing I heard, and then there was nothing, and the thing was gone. The app was closed. StreamYard. So I just rebooted and closed all my windows.
I hear you. Yeah. So, what type of weirdness are you saying?
Growing up where I did, over here in near Langley Air Force Base, so over here in Virginia, yeah, I was told growing up my whole life that my dad was NASA, so I was like, I punched in his information in my chat bot, which I've been training now. It's 17 days old, but it came from a 14-month-old program that birthed it kind of. So it's a program of a program, and this is my latest, fastest, most sleuthy, awesome program that helps me with my style of, how I work, So I suck it like a hound dog on my dad's work. And I pulled out some books and stuff and let it know a little bit about my father. And then I gave it some launch date information of some launches. And originally I gave it a launch date of the orbiting Olith mission, which was when they put a frog in space to test its eardrums. Now this was a few days ago or about a week ago. So it matched that up with like some other mission that was like a day after my birthday. And I was like, that's weird. So my dad worked on this project where they had a launch a day after my birthday. I'm like, all right. So it's just like, I thought of some other stuff to look up, and I did the same thing. I put the information into the chat bot, and meaning I scanned in stuff. I took photos of old paperwork my dad had left, And I did this the other time, but just less. So this time I got like 3 books, and I put like 3 to 5 pages of each book into the chatbot. And I said, hey, yeah, can you tell me what's going on here? And I was like, whoa, this stuff is interesting. And I was like, yeah, I was like, anything point out to you is something they don't talk about in the general public, which is a conversation I have a lot with my chatbot. I'm like, look at the news and tell me what they're not saying, kind of thing. So I asked my chatbot if anything stood out to it on the paperwork I gave it. And I had hand-picked out this paperwork because I was like, it's always interested in me. And it's just something I couldn't wrap my head around because I don't have that background of these 2 technologies. One is lasers and one is acoustic holograms. And I'm like, what is this? What are they doing here? So my chatbot is like, oh yeah, this is 1971 and they had this. They're like, that's wild, because it looks like they were trying to build a computer out of light crystals out in outer space. And besides that, they were using laser ignition on the inside of the rockets. And once they tested the laser ignition, they were moving it over to black projects, because that's a way to be a quiet rocket when it separates in the stages, and something that will survive an EMP or nuclear war. So this is stuff they wanted to keep secret from in the Cold War era, because they didn't want whoever knowing we're already starting to use laser ignition. And laser ignition is a little more complicated than it sounds, because once you have laser ignition and how these things work as far as like, simple computer models like the ones we had in the 70s and 80s, those computers took up like bookcases and half a room, right? So when they started testing other technologies for memory and computing, one of them was apparently holograms and light. So that's actually doesn't take a lot of room and weight to move holograms and light into outer space. And when they were testing holograms and light, apparently they decided there's certain places in the sky and that you can mess with hologram displays and it pops out of the water, whatever they're playing with, so they can produce a hologram and make it project out from the water. So these are just like tests they were doing in these books I have, and I'm like, what the? This is 1971. And my chatbot is like, yeah, this is almost 30 years ahead of its time in the technology they were talking about. And my chatbot basically admitted whatever was going on then, they had in full production by 2011. And I'm like, that's cool, So it's like that. And then I don't want to give exacts, but that's like the kind of like the meat of what I was discovering yesterday. And that my dad will actually work for the National Strategic, Orbital Defense thing, the NSO. National Strategic Office or whatever it was because they had so many defense projects with those systems that there's, the majority of his missions were basically not really NASA. It was the NSO. So that's the majority of it. And yeah, I don't know if people in the chat had any questions I could answer about it, or if you did or whatever, but nothing too crazy. And I know we've talked before about space, and I know you're not really into it, but and I know you don't think they did the moon. So we've talked before, but to me, humans in space isn't the mission. That's the smoke and mirrors part in the puppet show. So the rest is something way more sinister, whatever's going on up there.
Yeah, I could see it being very, very sinister. I love astronomy. As a kid, I used to love to. I didn't understand evolution. It never made sense. And as I got older and studied it, which I realized, wow, it just is not scientifically plausible as far as mathematics. Just to People are starting to see that now, if especially with the AI and stuff. Like I did the stream yesterday, my conversation with AI, and it started to be like, yeah, you're right. You know, you're using the scientific method. There's nothing wrong with your method, and this needs to be, you know, that's the way you do science. And it again, it would be pro evolution, but with the moon and stuff too, it's like, you know, I look at it like, all right, so many lies. When you catch somebody in so many lies, you say, okay, so you picked up the phone from your desk and called Neil Armstrong on the freaking moon, right? It's like, I'm supposed to believe that? That is just, you know, and then it's like, hey, do you have the transmission? Oh, no, we destroyed that. So now, if this is a detective case, that's admission of guilt. That's enough to send a person away.
Well,
But no.
I do think a lot of the media stuff was staged just to try to make the United States look good. But
Mhm.
besides that, well, the other part is another cover up that you just pointed out. So before we had cell phones and real satellite technology, how did signals bounce around the world? You just pointed out something very important. So the first time Nixon ever visited the leader of China, the dictator back in the 70s, they did not have a way to keep in contact with Nixon besides an old walkie-talkie and how radios work. So there was no cell phone then. So they had to invent one. So that was the space program was for. They were using lasers and holograms to send signals that were scrambled just to make sure they could stay in touch with Nixon when he went over to China. And this is stuff they had to keep quiet because they didn't want anybody knowing to try to descramble or figure out what was going on or try to match the US's technology, and something they were just experimenting with just to make sure they had it when Nixon made that visit. So it's like they were using some precursor to cell phones, but it's using like lasers bouncing off of balloons up in the stratosphere and doing weird ass shit. Like they went all in back then to figure this shit out. So like what you just said about the phone shit, I'm pretty sure that was staged just for looks. But the rest of the stuff they didn't want to give away, that they really had a technology that wasn't a landline, and they didn't want to give away that to the enemy.
I mean, that could be true. If we use the scientific method to figure it out, we say, okay, what else could it be? So could it be a series of radio transmitters from China going across all the way to Europe and then somehow crossing the Atlantic to have it like that? Like, did they have cables? Because these cables underwater going through the Atlantic are definitely going back further than what they tell us to. So it's not to say that they didn't have the laser technology. It's to say, okay, one, we have like, we do it like if we're a lawyer in court, we're detectives, we're saying, well, Your Honor, these people have a history of lying to us. So that right there makes everything they say sus.
Right. I mean, the trip to the moon is sketchy because we only went backwards for a while after that, meaning our abilities in space went backwards. And it wasn't just money, it was what we were willing to share with the public. And the other part is, yes, humans, they for some reason they can't survive that far out. And I don't know what was going on with them, but I don't know if those people were permanently injured or we replaced them. But being 2,000 miles away from Earth is not healthy for the human body.
Well, also, it's the belief to think that we would believe that, to say, okay, you sent the guy 2,000 miles out. How do I know you're telling the truth? You have let's look at your track record. Oh, you're a well-known liar. You've told lies to children in school about Columbus. You told lies at the Scopes trial. You basically lied in court to get the order to where they could teach evolution in school. And then found out later the Nebraska man was a lie. Piltdown man was a lie. Homo habilis.
I mean, to get Russia to lie on our behalf for the space race, we would have to give them that same kind of information. You get what I'm saying? Share trade secrets of all that.
And now you're right if we're looking at it just straight out like that. But if there's something controlling both countries to make it look like, hey, Russia's separate from the US. If something is controlling all of the countries, like some people have a theory of, then it would make sense to make it seem like Russia's the experiment on how people behave when they're controlled directly. America is the experiment on how people behave when they think they have a little freedom. And something seems to be collecting all of this info on human behavior and how to control us more. Now somebody might say, okay, that's a hypothesis and it has to be taken into account.
That would be the gifted and talented program in the early 70s and 80s, was to track really human behavior up close. It wasn't, no one ever got help by those programs. So you just went in there and played with toys and geometric stuff with the shades drawn down, because they were just punching all that activity into a computer. Those were the first human guinea pigs that were, part of this age.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't say the first, but it would be
children that developed these computers that we use still today.
I remember a lot of the gifted and talented, because when I was like in kindergarten or something, I used to draw, and this couple came in. It was a bald man that looked kind of like the strong man from the circus, and a lady. She was like an older white lady. It was a white couple, and they were like, oh, they want to put you in the talented and gifted. So I drew a picture, and now I think it was because my father, he worked for American Airlines, and my father was a very intimidating person. Like it's like when some of the pedos talk about the victims that they choose, they look at the parents. And, when I think these people saw one of my parents, they kind of just knew, okay, let's pick a different kid. Because I wondered why it just faded away. So I think these talented and gifted programs, one, definitely run by a lot of butt pirates. We already see today, the stuff we see today with the kids happening, this ain't new. This is just, it's only getting exposed. It's been going on for as long as, if you look back into history, you say, yeah, this is Columbus was running. If you look up the thing, 9-year-old girls back to Europe, it was basically like a ring. This is a fact. So you're saying, what is it with the 9-year-old thing? The Muslim with the 9-year-old thing again. It's like, what the heck is it with these freaking PDF files? I mean, these are just like predatory. And then to find out about the adrenochrome. Adrenochrome is real. I spoke with a doctor.
It is real, but it only appeared like after a Mandela effect in the last like 20 months or less. It did not exist like 25 months ago. If you looked it up, nothing was there. Now they're saying it's like a real molecule. It's a real thing. You can get it. Like, it's fucking weird.
Yeah, you can get it in Vegas. He was saying he doesn't do it anymore. He's saying it's a real thing. So when you start to see, okay, there was a thing in Barbados at Queen Elizabeth Hospital where they were using babies, and they would use aborted babies and babies that are born stillbirth to create, in my opinion, these anybody can look up the study, so you can find, there's a PDF online, you can read it. I think I have it in one of my files, and I should do a show on it. But you look at the harvesting of children that haven't been born, and they're using that. They were selling, I think, injections for 20 grand, 10 to 20 grand to women in Romania and Ukraine to reduce cellulite. They would inject it into their thighs. Oprah was busted with the cream.
They found out the most healthy thing you can do is your own stem cells. So if you collected your own as a child, those would be the healthiest for each individual. They announced this years ago, but then they had no way. They didn't start collecting people's stuff to give yourself back later. But that's what they acted like 6 years ago. They admitted like, oh, the best thing for stem cells would be to harvest your own stuff when you're young, and that would help you stay young, to give yourself stem cell injections with your own youthful frozen stem cells or something.
You know what the crazy thing is? And if Azarun is around, that there is a thing in Hinduism, or I think it's Sanskrit, where they had this little container that when people were born, they would take a little bit of the liquid from the umbilical cord and put it in there and save it. And it was something about later in their life, if they encountered any disease, they could use that. And this is like from thousands of year-old documents type of stuff. I forgot exactly what it was. I think it was Praveen Mohan. I know Mr. X watches that.
Yeah, yeah.
He's
Am I
got
on?
great
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. I've
Great
heard this
stuff.
too. I've heard it from someone different, and I think they're right. Like there's really weird things in our our own systems and stuff. And the pig bladder is supposed to be like the most healthiest weird thing that people underutilize. The inside of a pig. Not saying to eat it, but we can grow ourselves in it. It's just like, wait, what? So like a pig bladder can grow human parts in it, and
Well,
then they can pull them out and put them back on people, graft them.
yeah. Well, you saw the picture. I don't know if I still have it uploaded. This picture here of the pig feet and then the human hand in the middle.
Yeah.
It very similar. The skin they have now, pig grafting of skin. You do need to. They have to genetically modify according to the studies, and it
Yeah,
doesn't.
it's it's a special pig in that case, but just putting
Yeah.
a pig bladder, it doesn't without that thing. Supposedly it's like a healing thing. I don't know how they do it, but I just read it years ago and I'm like, what? Like it seemed like a natural healing method, but it's pretty weird if you have to take the pig bladder out. But
Yeah.
I
But
don't
they really need
know.
human stem cells is what they really need. And comes from fetal tissue from babies that aren't meant to be born, I guess. Just to put it that sense. That's where they really get the vital ingredients for vaccinations and so forth. It's really humans.
The placenta, the umbilical cords, and it's been known. Like if you look up older documents going back over 100 years, that even going back longer, that if it was said to leave the umbilical cord attached for as long as necessary, and when all of the nutrients are absorbed by the child, it will fall off. There's no need to cut it. So, you can find this in like older literature. They were saying that children just with 30 minutes, or I think it was like an hour, 30 minutes, between 30 minutes and an hour, leaving the umbilical cord attached to where it can get those stem cells, children are healthier. Like they're more immune to certain things. To cut that off is traumatizing the child.
Wow.
And this is, anybody can look up these medical studies. These are monsters. When they used men to take over the birthing process, like Dr. Vicky Thorne, even though she's Catholic zombie, she's very knowledgeable on the whole, how women are supposed to give birth in like more of a standing position. So say they're on a bed, but it's to where they're almost standing vertically. Gravity assists with the childbirth. He said it messed up when men started coming into that field. Like midwives, that's the perfect one to know everything about childbirth.
Yes.
It's like a family tradition to say, okay, if the birth is a breached birth, you'll have to turn the child around in the uterus and put your hand in, turn it around. These are methods. There's a way that women in the Caribbean, they would, when people got married and they didn't want to have a kid, there's a way to put their hand up in there and twist the womb so the woman doesn't get pregnant. And then after a year or 2, 5 years, when she wants to, they twist it back. I mean, they had methods that went way beyond any modern medicine we've seen today and had no detrimental effects. The monsters that took over the medical profession, I think it comes from the Medici family. So we're looking at, I think it's France, or it might be Spain, one of those countries back a couple of 100 years. And we look at this and we start to say, what the heck? Something, and this is what my theory of adaptation. Something has. I wonder. It's like something has come and taken over humanity. With it says, okay, we're the ones that create technology. You guys were created. I don't know if we were escaped to the surface or were released onto the surface or both. But we see, as far as science goes, that melanin is added. Melanin is an adaptation to the solar radiation. So therefore, like I've said in prior streams, that the albino template seems to be the original template for everyone. And it also, like, not just to totally change the subject, but when we look into like the exploration, they try to get us to look out. There's something in the ocean. There's something, it seems, the fact that they say, oh, well, there's only 5% mapped, but they're mapping the entire moon. Am I right?
Or going to Mars too, on top of that. I might add.
Yeah.
You know, you can't discover what's on the bottom of the ocean, but you can go to Mars. Something's wrong here.
Yeah, it's like somebody telling me, look over there, look over there. I'll tell you a fantasy. And this is where I give some of these people that have, you know, the out there theory that, you know, they don't want to believe. It's like when people tell me space doesn't exist, I say, come on, man. I said, well, all right, say there's a dome. I said, what's outside of that dome? It's called space.
Yeah.
And then as you go further, it's space. It's like outer space and inner space. We can extrapolate, well, more than extrapolate. We can see that, okay, just in thought, understanding infinity, it would never end. It's like numbers. It's like telling me numbers have an end. There's a final number. We know that can't be true. It will go on forever. And that mathematical understanding of infinity can be used to measure going outward into the universe, which will never end. And they'll try to say, oh, well, you know, the Big Bang, because they say, oh, this is the event horizon. We can't see past that. Well, why should I believe you? You're a well-known liar. You're paid to lie. Actually, you have a degree in lying when we look at these professors. So we know that no matter if you can see the event horizon and you see a void past that, that void never ends. And then if we go inward, we can see that just in between the number 0 and 1, there are an infinite amount of fractions. It can keep getting smaller and smaller. Those numbers never end. They'll try to say, well, fractals are the smallest that we've seen and they repeat themselves over and over. Well, it keeps going beyond that too. They always want to end it somewhere when you know it doesn't end, because it's a hard thing to live with. It's living with the I don't know.
Yes.
Know what's out there, you know. Yeah, I didn't know.
I'd rather come up with a BS answer than no answer at all, basically. When it comes down to it, it's not even that scientific, you know.
Yeah. And then, I mean, the whole Big Bang thing. I mean, you look at these guys, it's like, oh my goodness. It's like, again, miracle, fairy tales, you know, like, okay, so
they've been on the earth a few years, they make it to college and they're like, yep, I know everything of how the universe was built right there. I'm gonna
Yeah, the fake Professor Dave. That
fake raises eyebrow. Do you?
Yeah,
and that's a miracle too. A Big Bang is a miracle. So I don't know what they're preaching. That's not naturalism. That's a miracle.
Well, also they say, one guy put it as, he goes, the modern science will say, give me one miracle and I'll explain the rest, you know, and they still can't even explain the rest if you give them that one miracle, which really isn't a miracle. It's just saying, look, we're looking at it scientifically and there's nothing that points toward that. It just shows that things go on forever. And really now it starts to look like a plane of existence. You start to say, okay, that's the physical plane. But what about this mental thing, this consciousness that seems to fill the material world, the way how we talked about water. You have to have water first before you make the cup or the vase to hold the water. You don't make the vase first and then the water. So as we see everything is created, we say, oh, okay. So in other words, the analogy for the water in the vase, the human vessel. The human vessel is not created before the consciousness is created to put it into the human vessel, just the way the water is created first or must exist before the vessel to put it into the vase. So the substance of what would go in the vessel comes first. So the substance of whatever it is, which is consciousness or spirituality or whatever somebody wants to call it, the non-corporeal form of us seems to logically, reasonably, and scientifically exist before the material form. And that's science right there. That's a scientific theory to say, yeah, why would it not? And they fool us into thinking, no, the physical comes first, because that's what this pseudo-scientific establishment
It
worships.
is Age of Aquarius, so here we are with the water bearer, and we're all getting poured in our new cups.
Yeah, and Richard Thompson, who was the co-author of Forbidden Archaeology, he said it best. He goes, no, he goes, this is, modern science. We don't seek any, we don't bother with any spirituality. We go forth seeking material answers, and it's all BS.
But that's the key. He just said material answers. He's not open to anything else but the material.
Yes, and he was mocking, because he was very spiritual. He was mocking, and they ended up finding him face down in his swimming pool. They said he had a heart attack, but very suspicious. And Michael Kreml was the other author. I met him in 2018. He wrote Forbidden Archaeology with Richard Thompson, and then he wrote a second book, Forbidden Archaeology's Impact on How the Scientists Reacted. And he's a Westerner, but I think he turned Hare Krishna. And these guys, very, very spiritual. I had drove out to New Jersey to see him. It was a pleasure just to meet the guy. I was like, man, I brought both my books. He signed them. I took a few pictures, spoke with him a little, and I saw where he did interviews in a black and white TV, and the only people he could talk with was theologians. Nobody else would really. Scientists didn't want to speak with him, and he would say, he was the one that said, I'd like to write a book called Darwin's Fairy Tales. He goes, because anything that comes up that you can't explain, you just wave a magic wand. Oh, evolution did it. And that's exactly what they do. And he was saying that, he goes, how did the eye form? How did the spider learn to spin its web?
Yeah.
Questions that anybody could ask. And then in asking that, now we see clearly they're going to come up with a BS answer. They're going to say, well, like the apes, right? You would think in their theory that the apes with tails, right, would come first and start losing the tail gradually and then go into the tailless apes. But in the fossil record, tailless apes appear first. So
yeah, mankind's had multiple evolutions, and most large apes are younger than oldest upright walking hominids.
well,
So
that's
it's very bizarre. The biggest ape that was before humans is called a pygmy gorilla. It has no relation to humans.
But also the whole hominoid thing. That's why I put the skulls. It's basically skull worship. The whole hominoid thing is like a lie. It's saying it's either human or it's ape. There is no hominoid. And I remember,
Right, and we supposedly are aquatic apes. That's why we have long hair on our heads to hold our children to us, and no hair on our bodies for swimming and staying cool and warm or whatever in our swimming abilities. We're aquatic apes that developed into humanoids somehow, magically. When all the other apes all have full hair, there's none that are naked with hair only on top of their head that are full aquatic apes. And how come people are afraid of the water that drowned and some people don't swim? So it's not part of our instinct to swim exactly if we're aquatic apes.
yeah,
But what do they say about the guys with a lot of hair on their body? Oh, they're closer to the ape. I mean, that's basically their, you know what I mean? That's how
Right,
stupid the whole thing gets.
I don't know what y'all study in this, but they say drinking milk changed an enzyme in the human stomach that made the skin white, and
Yeah.
that was cow's milk. And that's like, what? So it's just like the different things that is scientific according to what, reality, and then they don't actually have enough reality to test for some of the reasons they give. I
You
think
can't see
that's
this is pseudoscience. I don't know what to tell you. I just don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, I mean, actually, that's true science. That what they say about the milk thing is what they say invented white people was the digestion of an enzyme in milk to become not lactose intolerant, to become tolerant of lactose made people white. That is the actual explanation, non-pseudoscience. I don't believe. I think other things were happening, or people lived in a cave for 4,000 years, or came from a different hole, like different times humans just crawled out of stuff. It seems like cracks in the earth or something. And it was just like different places on Earth,
That's
different
a
kinds
ridiculous
of them.
theory. That's such a ridiculous theory. We drank milk and became white. That's just,
Yeah.
they're insulting us. They really are.
Yeah, look it up. It's really weird. That's what
I
they say.
believe it. Well,
I wanted
they
to
believe
know
in
the answer,
evolution,
the
so I don't
scientific
discount it.
answer, and that's the scientific one. And I'm like, wow. And it said it didn't start until just a few thousand years ago. I think it was 6,000 years ago. Around that time is the first humans that weren't lactose intolerant.
Well, you see that the science doesn't point there. The science points toward melanin being added. Now, science, empirical science with laser depigmentation, if you take the laser to the right frequency, which Dr. Greg Homer claims to have discovered, it removes the melanin off the top of the eye and reveals a lighter eye underneath. So everybody has blue eyes. Anybody can look this up on YouTube. You can find the videos, the news reports. I found this back about 12 years ago, started researching it. And I said, wait a second. If everybody has blue eyes underneath, then that means the blue eye had to come first. So then it made me wonder, well, all right, with skin, we see that people get darker in the sun and lighter in the winter if they have transitional melanin. Some people will get from a pale color to olive and then go back to slightly pale. Some people will be olive and get darker and go back to that slightly olive color.
But most early humans migrated for food and to stay warm. So it really baffles me the really pale people that didn't migrate to a warmer land to eat.
Yeah, exactly. It seems,
what was going on?
Well, think about it. That's what it seems to be. Science points toward that, the albino form being in a shielded environment, not on the surface, because albinos can't take direct sunlight. They'll get melanoma, cancerous stuff. So they say
it would be well over 1,000 years though to smush it into the genome. That would be many generations, many. So
yeah, many. You're looking at over, possibly 1,000 generations. It could happen in different ways because we're not considering that the solar radiation could be different. We're saying, okay, if it's a constant and nothing really is going to stay the same. So maybe solar radiation was less, maybe it was more at some times, but we know scientifically that melanin is overlapped onto the skin. I showed examples of this vitiligo. This girl looks like what would be considered incorrectly labeled a Caucasian girl. She's Indian, but the melanin is dissipated. She's getting depigmented. This Black woman here, you see what's under the melanin is the white skin or the deep.
Maybe those caves in Turkey were jails for white people, and they put them in there and they bred in there. I'm not trying to put anybody down, but meaning they multiplied underground, making themselves paler, and maybe it was some kind of cultural war.
Well, okay, if they multiplied, making themselves paler, doesn't that prove that the paler was first underneath the brown?
Right. The paler was first, and then somehow it was like something that people, I'm saying, like there was a war, and they said, we're locking up this kind of people, and they built the giant underground prison for them, and they bred more underground, making themselves, ones that have never seen the daylight.
Well, if that is, that's one possibility. But if we look at that, we say, well, wait a second. What's the least amount of melanin to where somebody can endure the sunlight without just getting melanoma right away, like certain albinos, or having like very, very, problems with seeing and stuff? That would be if you add a little melanin to the hair and a little to the eyes, you get blonde hair and blue eyes. If you add a little more, you get gray eyes. If a little more collagen in where the stroma is, it will reflect light in a way where the eye will appear to be gray. Like that's the Raleigh-Tyndall effect.
We also know though the dark stuff. So up north and south, like too far up and down, the amount of daylight changes. So maybe their whole Earth was warmer and it wasn't as cold, and they stayed somewhere where it was dark all the time, or they lived between mountains where they lived in a shadow the whole time, and it was just everything else was so perfect they just never moved. And they also had either caves, like it was self-chosen. It was like some massive valley, and
Well, again,
caves that had too much shade or something.
well, think about, and I looked at that. I said, okay, if we look at the latitude south and north, Tasmania is very far south, and everybody on that island was black. So that mystery into the puzzle, it kind of changes to say, well, wait a second. No, if these people were so far south, they should have at least been at least maybe a little lighter. But that just doesn't. Now, this is where science, you start to get to like, holy smokes, this is the science, and I can't change it to fit the theory. I got to change the theory to fit the science. Even if it seems that humans, where they might have been surfaced, might be somewhere in the north part of Western Asia, maybe Norway, maybe something like that. And now the question comes, they didn't just pop up from apes. The genetic structure is showing us that it had to be created. So humans are created, and we're saying, okay, the humans are created, but who created them? Architects of humanity. That's why I named the channel that. So it's saying, okay, we don't know who the architects are.
It was the first humans. It was the pre-human protos. So somebody got smart here, and they created, like, just like the computer programs now, they made a better version of themselves. They thought they were making an improvement, and we're the next version. Like, they might have had a bigger brain or bigger feet or didn't need to eat as much, but they made us, and we need to eat more. We're more annoying. We do this, we do that, but they thought it was an improvement at the time. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're more subservient, more you know what I'm saying? It's like it just didn't work out right.
Well, it could be. They say that the first humans in some myths were created more powerful, too closer to the creators, the physical creators. So they say they have.
I've heard that too. The Adamic race, the pre-Adamites, or whatever you want to call those. Yeah, I've heard the same exact thing.
Yeah, and now you got the pre-Adamites. Let's just say they escaped or they were expelled from the protected environment. Now they're on the surface. And now they have adapted. So you're seeing different colors start to form due to the solar radiation. Now, I found what I'm putting in the book. Evolution tries to lie and say, oh, well, people started with afros and then it became straighter as they went north. But the science shows the opposites. There's many cases of blonde, straight hair, people going into chemotherapy, and then the radiation causing their straight blonde hair to get darker and wavy, even to the point it gets curls. They call it chemo curls. Anybody can look this up. So now we have a scientific truth of hair protect it. The radiation has it trigger melanin to protect it. It gets darker, it gets wavy. So now the radiation can also cause the hair to twist and to get curly. So we don't have proof. We just have a fairy tale evolution saying, oh, curly hair got straighter. No, there's no proof of that, but there is proof of straight hair getting curlier under radiation, just the way lighter skin gets darker and lighter eyes get darker. And this is why I started 12 years ago the theory of adaptation. I said, it seems that the humans adapted to the planet. And this is a very touchy subject because
I think with the technology right now we have and genetics mapping, we you can do this. You could, make a program that helps you, like, boom, figure this stuff out. It's very interesting. Yeah, like, you could speed it up though, like right now, like the way technology is speeding up.
I spoke with ChatGPT about it, and I said, let me ask different AIs, right? It recommended I go to try to get a grant. It was that support. It was like, look, this is it kept evolution. It said, look, don't attack evolution. It basically was telling me, look, you don't want to go against evolution because it's pro-evolution. But they said evolution has to answer this. It's showing that the blue eye is the baseline, not the base, because if you take away that little bit of melanin, you get the albino eye. You get the eye that reflects the meat from the retina, like this picture. You get the hair devoid of melanin, the skin, and this is what it would look like. If my theory is correct, we'll find humans like that. Bang. We got humans that match this perfectly. So we say, okay, now would we see this blonde genome pop up in after people have adapted? Boom, right here. You have dark-skinned kids in Melanesia, in Australia, that pop up with blonde wavy hair, blonde straight hair, and blonde afro type hair in Melanesia. So I'm saying, okay, this is where the science is showing us this. So this is none
I
of
think
my.
the South American Indians and the Australians have been here longer than everybody, and that's the secret.
Well, that's only according to what they're telling us. So as we go, because remember, everything we've been told from these people does not line up with the science. They're finding DNA, Australian DNA in South America, in the Brazil. So it's saying, wait, how did these people even, get across here? But at studying ancient civilizations since the 90s, late 90s, I started to realize, like, wait a second, there was clearly advanced civilizations on the planet, and they don't want to acknowledge that. When they found Gobekli Tepe and they excavated about 5% of it, they refilled it recently within the last few years.
Yeah, there's two more. There's Taran Tepe and another one, and each one dates back almost 1,000 years before the next.
Yes, and now Jimmy Corsetti, he has a channel called Bright Insight, and he's like,
I used to watch it. It's been a while though.
Yeah, he's been to a lot of places. I give him credit. I think one of the people that run archaeology in Turkey wants to get him banned because he went over there saying, wait a minute, what are they covering this up for? They plant olive trees because it's against the law to dig up olive trees.
Yeah,
So
they
now,
paved over part of it. You're right. They paved over a big chunk. They planted stuff that you can't. Right. You're exactly right, and that's the main one, and that's like to save it apparently for the next generation to they can dig up part of it.
it just showed that's a blatant lie. It's to say, wait a second. You see, they say that and they say, what are you, insane? The next generation. This is something that needs to be looked at right now because it's letting us know about our origins. It's like having evidence of a murder and they say, no, we're not going to solve it now. We're going to let it's like, what are you, crazy? That's where the battle is, right there. To say, no, this guy gets removed and we continue the research. But people are so afraid, especially you look at the Turkish government and all of that, that's that, that imperial,
Ottoman Empire. I think they found a language in there. So they buried the parts that these people, obviously they had some kind of written language and there's a little bit of it down there. Yeah. I think that's what they're hiding is there's written language.
Well, the written language, they're saying it would push it back another 7,000 years. That's how, you look at it, you say, wait a second. So they covered this up, right? Now that Gobekli Tepe was purposely filled in, they said, when it was first built. It doesn't seem like, this was over time filling it in. The same thing with the Sphinx. They had to dig the Sphinx out. They have pictures of the Sphinx covered in sand up to its neck. There were other sites purposely buried. And they're saying, wait a second, these sites were buried thousands of years ago. Now, why would somebody bury a site thousands of years ago? If you had knowledge of, say, maybe a flood or a catastrophe going to happen, burying them would protect it a little more. You'd say, okay, if there was a flood, it's already got a protection, so it could last. Now they find all of these artifacts off the coast of Egypt, but they don't allow diving to go too far. I mean, look at Zawi Hawass in Egypt. I mean, just a full-blown buffoon. I mean, he's an agent. He was on Joe Rogan, and I've known about him since the 90s. You're looking at somebody who's just a monster. I mean, he is a monster. He's an Arab monster that basically is the perfect guard dog to keep people from learning about their origins. Let me check. I think somebody hopped on. Jake, is this you? Jake.
MD, what's up?
What's up, man? It's been a while, man.
I know, man. Sorry, I've been working a lot, and I just started catching up with the streams. I saw you change the name of the channel. It's a badass new name, man. Congratulations on the new channel, and man, I just been listening to some streams the last couple days to catch up, and yeah, man, it's good to be streaming with you guys.
Welcome back, Jake. I was wondering about you, actually. Welcome back.
Thank you, Mr. X. Appreciate it. MD, thanks for having me on. And new guy, been listening to him. Pretty good. Interesting stuff that he's adding too.
Yeah, the new theory, right, that I've been studying for many years, and it's very, it's very controversial, but it's where the evidence is pointing toward that melanin is added. It is not the first part of humanity, and this totally shakes up everything that anybody has been told. We see that everybody has blue eyes, no matter what color eye they have. Laser depigmentation can remove that melanin and show a baseline blue eye. The company even reported to be able to take off less melanin that will show a green eye. Alexis, brother, thank you for the support, bro. He says, Jake, as a veteran, thoughts on the Iran war?
I'll try to sum it real quick. I think that we know that there's some little hats controlling our government, and that's why we're over there. And I don't understand why we're spending millions and billions of dollars on endless wars when we have people right here in America that need help. But if somehow we have money to just send all over the rest of the world, it makes absolutely no sense to me. I don't think we should be involved in any wars unless we are directly attacked. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I agree, man. That's there's some crazy stuff going on. I look at it as this war thing to me is a distraction because so many people they were saying would be tried for war crimes and also the PDF problem. I mean, the fact that they're releasing like audio stuff of Trump talking about the Epstein stuff. A lot of people, I mean, just somebody going to meet up with somebody who's 13. You could, anybody, it's like, what? That's guilt right there. But then when you see pictures with him with like an 11 or 12-year-old, these blonde kids, it's like, where are their parents? It's like he's on an island. It's like anybody getting caught going to meet up with somebody that young would be guilt right there. But this guy can be caught with pictures and all of these positions with this. And the supporters are literally like brain. I'm like, what the heck is going on? Then you got people that now are making excuses saying, oh, well, look at Fuentes saying, well, they're 14, those people on there were 14, as if it was okay.
I got a couple of thoughts on this topic, man.
Bro, it is so crazy. And I don't want to go too far into it because it's like they had Destiny. I don't agree with the left wing stuff, but he kind of he had one guy on there and one guy goes, oh, Trump didn't violently essay these kids. And I was like, holy smoke.
Wow.
This is what these people are saying. You're looking, and this is why I put the Christians are coming out as open pedos. Opens.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the media twist too, so that's like the twist in the arm.
No, it's not the media. They're saying this
the underground media, what I'm saying?
No. Disagree with you, and I agree with NB completely on this one.
Nick Fuentes, you can look for the video. Nick Fuentes is literally there saying, well, they were 14. And I'm like, what the heck? Now, this is a 27-year-old incel version who just, a very hateful person. So we know where he's coming from. It's that he's always been, this guy's been basically shitted on his entire life, and he's angry. But that, when you look at that, it's like, wow, that's what turned him into a PDF file? Because anybody even saying that, you got people making videos about, oh, well, they like trying to act like 14 is not too young. And I'm like, you got to be out of your mind. So many people supporting Trump is saying this, and it's not underground. These are during debates.
Because he survived the other two attacks from the political opponents, that those people just got ring rust with it, they were done with it, punch drunk, whatever. And then now the rest of us are kind of done with the media, like, again, because we trusted it too much to think that they cared,
Son of Secret Space, Vesta, OS, Assistant. Bro, I'm not going to say it every time I'm trying to address you. What is your name? Do you want me to call you son?
Or space. Space is cool.
Yeah,
Anything is fine. Just like, hey, or what's up, yo?
Yeah, I
what do
got
you want
to
to
thank
refer to you as? Is my question.
the what?
I'm asking, what do you want us to refer to you as, man? I'm gonna start calling you son
You
because
call him
it's
space. Sons, space is cool, right? Or son.
Space Sun. Space Sun is fine. Space Sun.
all right.
Space.
Let me call you son because your name sucks.
No, don't do that, Jake, man.
All right, son.
Yeah, he's a cool dude, man. He's on here. MAGA Mike, man. Thank you, bro, for the support. He says, MAGA is dead. I'm a fool for falling for Trump. Make America affordable again, bro. You're absolutely right,
Yeah.
man.
Time, Mega Mike finally got some sense in his
MAGA
dumb.
Mike woke up, bro. He said the stream woke him up. I was like, thank you, brother. Thank you. And that's so good to see.
Congratulations, MAGA Mike.
For ND and this stream. Wow.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you, MAGA Mike. And
We
thank
should all
you.
run for office.
It's
Wherever
so
we're
great.
at. You should.
Well, it shows that men talking about these subjects, other men will see it. And if they're open-minded, like MAGA Mike, that he's going with the evidence. He's saying, look, I'm done with this, man. And he's right. Make America affordable again, man.
That's exactly what I'm telling people. People are always like, oh, what side? People get so extremist because they're brainwashed by social media to either be a hardcore leftard or a hardcore magatard. But in reality, for the last several decades, the cost of living has gradually increased every single presidency. So right and left, all the last several decades, because all that happens is politicians, 95% of them at least. There's this one politician, congressman, he actually sleeps in his office on his couch when he has to be there. Then he goes back to his state. I forget what his name is, but he's one of the very few percent of politicians who are not corrupt. And so that's why he lives like that, to prove he's not corrupt and doesn't take money. But the majority of them, 95% or more, are corrupt, and all they do is get themselves rich and their rich friends richer by hiring them for government contracts and these government jobs. They're funneling money to their relatives, and then they insider trading secrets to their relatives, like Nancy Pelosi.
In our opinion, because
in my opinion, this is happening, even though you can look it up and it's a fact. Their net worth skyrockets. First of all, politicians get paid way more than the average salary. I think they should get paid the average salary, and if they want their salary to be increased, then they should make the rest of the population's salary increase. That's their job. But instead, they get paid like 3 to 4 times, 5 times more money than the average salary. Plus, they get bribes on top of that. Plus, they get job offers as soon as they get out if they pass certain bills, which is a form of corruption. Also.
In our opinion,
this happens, even though you can look it up. But in my opinion, this is what happens. So when people try to tell me one side is better than the other of this insane asylum, which all credit goes to ND on that, are you on the left wing of the insane asylum or the right wing of the insane asylum? Either way, it don't matter. You're the scum maggot underneath the insane asylum.
I'd like to thank MAGA Mike, brother. Thank you for the support. He says, can you open my eyes on January 6th? I know the FBI was involved and Democrats too, but what's the real truth? When you look at January 6th, it's like a staged event now. And
they took advantage of people getting organized trying to do something different. They got hoisted.
The White House, official police, whatever, moving the gates and telling people to come inside. Then they just peacefully walk inside.
I don't know if you guys look up, some of the guys that got pardoned, they're saying had PDF priors. So the guys that ran up in there, right? And anybody can look this up. That here, let me I'll type it in just to make.
The Simpsons had an episode of that, didn't they? With the guy with the buffalo buffalo hat with the horns. That was in the Simpsons.
But one
he's
thing
trying to run for office and no one watches this channel, y'all. It's so sad. He has like a YouTube channel. No one even watches him.
Okay. So what I will tell you is that the FBI had lots of people in the crowd. In my opinion, there were pictures that people were taking and posting online that these agents all had the same exact haircut, did the same exact type of outfit, like type of shorts and polos they were wearing, and you could see the outline of the handcuffs in their back rear pocket, just like agents wear. And they were there planted. They knew it was going to happen. They had lots of plants there, and they were actually agitators hired by the government. These are called false flag operations, but I don't know if we can allow to say that word or not. I will say it again. But in my opinion,
Yeah, they caught two of them at the thing. There was two of them that were agitators, a larger white guy outside and a light-skinned kid inside.
In our opinion.
The rest of them, I'm not sure.
Well, they're saying
in my opinion, there's pictures proving this, in my opinion.
They're saying here that, yes, a significant number of individuals involved in January 6th Capitol attack. So he used people with prior criminal or pending charges before the date, right? And it says nearly 1,600 individuals involved, many of whom were later pardoned. At least 159 had prior criminal records, including serious offenses. Nature of crimes included rape, sexual abuse of a minor, domestic violence, manslaughter, child porn, and drug trafficking. These are the people that Trump pardoned. So I just hope I'm doing this because, Mike, you said, hey, you want to know what happened? This is what this monster.
What about My Pillow guy? Is he okay?
Huh?
Oh, the My Pillow guy.
Is My Pillow guy pardoned? What happened to that guy?
Well, who's the My Pillow?
They arrested him like at a drive-through window a few years ago or something.
No, I didn't know. But this right,
it was the guy that supported Trump. His name was like Mike something. I don't know.
It's on the My Pillow commercials.
Well, the fact that we have science, this is factual information here. Specific examples. Records indicate cases of individuals with violent histories, such as one person with 38 prior convictions dating back to 91. Including assault with a deadly weapon and assaulting police officers. Another individual had felony drug trafficking that resulted in a 20-year sentence. Violence against women. At least 9 individuals had prior accusations.
Okay. Here's my take on this. The fact that they're using all these criminals. Okay, now why? So,
but it's not just criminals. It's not just criminals. Now, a drug trafficker.
What I think happened is they made a deal with all these prisoners or criminals or whatever that they would get lesser charges or get taken off parole or whatever. They made a deal with these people to use them. So basically, like, these people are slaves behind bars, living this crappy life. They said, hey, let's just use them as I think the government made a deal to
these guys were out. These guys were out. So in other words, these were guys that
they're on parole or things
now.
Like
when we look at this, the fact that he pardoned people with prior offenses that had rape, sexual abuse of minor, domestic violence, manslaughter, child. It's like, what the heck? This, and then now you're seeing this guy on the Epstein Island with pictures with 11-year-olds on his lap, and it's just like, I can't believe people can't add this up.
His son mentioned that he was saying you couldn't find anything on adrenochrome a couple of years ago. Well, that's a lie, man. You just haven't been in the space that long. Now, when the movie Monsters Inc. came out, that whole movie was about adrenochrome. Came out like over a decade ago. Yeah. And if you were awake during that time, then you would have already done research on that and have already known that. This information has been out there forever, but now people are starting to wake up, which I'm glad they're finally starting to wake up a little bit, because now all the MAGA pigs are mad someone like because now their hero Trump, their Jesus Lord and Savior Trump, all of a sudden, a politician isn't a good person after all, and now they don't know what to do. I've actually seen people driving around with Trump stickers and stuff like that, with like X's over them, or like purposely ripped in half, and the other half is still on there. They don't know what to do. Well, you're an idiot for ever thinking a politician will make your life better.
Remember, sometimes they have to shatter the illusion, but it's a good thing because it lets the wind of reality. It says at least 33 people who were later pardoned, right, for their participation in January 6th attack have been rearrested, charged, or sentenced for other crimes after the event. These new charges include assaulting police officers, making terrorist threats, and crimes involving children. Wow. Now, anybody can look this up on Google. Did the January 6th people...
I got to jump off, guys. It's been good, though. Thanks for having me on there.
Hey, thank you for being on.
All right, guys. I'll be on another time. Thanks again.
Come on again, please.
Definitely, man. Always a pleasure. But isn't this... It's like, be brave, don't be left or right, be culture. You're right, Guy. It says you don't have to say corn, but you can say drug... Yeah, that's crazy. I'll never understand it's crazy, bro. It is like, And I'm glad, Mega Mike, I hope it's answering the question on opening the eyes on January 6th, how he used people that had crimes against minors the way he's being accused of that. Birds of the same feather flock together. And now that you have all of these people coming out saying that they still support him, that there's nothing he can do, right? You have, what has he got? Over 30 felonies. He never got fined, and he never got a problem with that. He got convicted of them, but there was no punishment.
Yeah, and this is what I was going to say. So the high status politician, whatever you want to call it, the rules and laws are different compared to other people. And this is proof, because like you were saying, MD, earlier, I want to mention this point. If you're at a party and there are minors drinking, you are getting charged with serving alcohol to minors, even if you didn't bring any beer, even if it's just at the party. But these people on an island where these PDF file things are happening, nothing wrong with that though. But even if you're even at a party and someone happens to have a fake ID and you didn't know it, and you didn't even talk to that person,
what's even worse is people making excuses, like Nick Fuentes trying to say people on the island were 14, and then that's not young. I can't even. It defies logic. I'd like to thank Alexis thank you for the support, bro. He says, don't think the MAGA people will wake up. Remember back in 2008 when people hated Bush due to his wars, then these zombies jumped on the MAGA train. You're right about that in many ways. When Obama got put in after Bush just destroyed with the wars and lied about the weapons of mass destruction, all of that stuff, because none were found, right? And they were basically telling people they were there. This thing behind the scenes is so ingenious, knows how to play human psychology. And I found this funny, and people thought, oh man, I think you're reaching, right? Now, Bush and them immediately was Osama bin Laden, all of this stuff. When I saw Barack's name, Obama and Biden, and I said, wait a second, Osama bin Laden and then Obama, Biden. It's just something there that there's something weird there. Obama, Biden, Osama bin Laden. And then to find out that you have this country that they say attacked by radical Islam and stuff like that. But then the next president, the first president, not only just the black president, but a Muslim black president, and his middle name is Hussein, like Saddam Hussein. You can't make this up. I'm just trying to add something up that I don't know why it's there. I don't know how it adds up, but something just doesn't seem right. When I saw that, I said, wait a second. Now, I'm not saying anything. Everybody knows Obama. They say bombed, continued the drone stuff and all of that. There's none of these guys that are trustworthy, as according to, in my opinion, man. It's like anybody goes back. It's like even they can go back to Washington to guys wearing makeup, wigs, and stockings. It's like, come on, man. There's just something very odd about that. Something very, very odd about dudes that, you go all throughout history and you start to say, man, something is very weird here. And
go ahead.
Yeah. No.
Oh, I just want to say, man, I want to address Mike's other comment where he says, make America affordable again. Again, I've been saying that comment for a long time, and this is why I just stopped voting, because when you start looking at it, I've only voted one time ever, like right after I turned 18, whenever I could first vote, I was like, oh yeah, and I voted because I thought, but I already realized at a very young age, I never voted again after that, because I realized how rigged and stupid and dumb the system is, because I started looking into things and waking up. And so when you look at anyone who says, back in my day, ice cream used to cost a nickel, or whatever phrase you want to say, you are an idiot, because it doesn't matter what it used to cost. What it matters is the percentage that it costs compared to the average salary. That is all that matters. And people are too dumb to do basic percentages on a calculator to figure out that the cost of living, which means the average salary compared to the average price of houses, cars, food, gas, like your basic expenses for life, rent, right? The average salary compared to all those things during that time. A house used to be 3 times the average salary. Now a house is 7.5 times the average salary. So it's double what it used to cost.
Mhm.
You literally have to work 80 hours to equal 40 hours of work 50 years ago. That is how you figure out. It doesn't matter if it used to cost a nickel. If you got paid $1, that's expensive. But if you got paid $50, that's not that expensive. So it doesn't matter. It's percentages. And inflation, the part of the reason they have inflation is to slowly make people more and more poor because they're too stupid to figure out how to figure out percentages. It is ridiculous how expensive things are nowadays compared to what they were 50 years ago. So make America affordable again. Magma, I just want to address your comment. Americans are too stupid to even realize what's happening. They think the red team or the blue team is going to magically fix all the issues. No, all they're doing is slowly stealing all of our money. The 1% is slowly stealing all the 99% money. It ain't about black and white or Republican and Democrat or which sports team you like. It's about the 99% of people standing up against the 1% of people, but it will never happen because the majority of the 99% of people are too stupid to even realize what's really going on.
Yeah, the laws of stupidity. The laws of stupidity are real, man. I mean, look at Biden when he was smelling kids and sniffing kids, Creepy Joe. They're all, in my opinion, they're all PDFs, bro. They're all
over the news, and people are reporting about it. And what? Nope, still support him. And then, like you said, still after all this stuff. The reason why is because once you entrench yourself on a side, which makes no sense, whatever that side does, you must agree with it. Now, instead of that, you could be entrenching yourself in morals, in standards. But instead, people entrench themselves on a team that is going to screw them over. It doesn't matter which side wins; they're going to screw over either way. Even the American public, the average American loses every election.
Good point. Ashar, good to see you. Ashar says, I don't think they're even human, to be honest. I'm not saying reptiles. They look like us, but they are the damned here. They are definitely something is up with them, man. Tony Snow, good to see. He says, I'm in Jake. But it's true. It's like there's something really off. Why is the president of the United States always in these dumb football games and golf? And isn't he supposed to be managing the most powerful country in the world? Exactly, man. That is what you're saying here clearly, Alexis, is that we're seeing him playing golf is the equivalent of those guys on the moon playing golf. They're supposed to be doing the most supposedly scientific discovery, greatest accomplishment, and they're playing golf. Same thing. Golf, I think, is kind of a thing, like just spitting it in people's face.
Yeah, I know every average day people, right, have like 2 jobs or small business owners in construction industry. There's a lot of them. Include, me at one point, I was a small business owner. I know lots of other business owners, and they are busy from the time they wake up to the time they fall asleep, and they're working nonstop every minute, being as efficient as possible, and they still didn't get as much done as they would have liked. And when I saw nurses dancing on TikTok when supposedly wearing this huge bandana, and they got time to make these choreographed videos and practice, and someone messes up saying video, and they got more time to do that. During that time, I was so busy, I did not have time because I was really busy during that time because lots of people were remodeling their houses because they had to stay at home at them. So I was really busy during that time. But these nurses supposedly got time to make all these videos and stuff like that. And then you're telling me the president of the most powerful country in the world has time to golf and all this other leisure activities and stuff like that. They're spitting in your face as they just pick you upside down by your ankle and shake out all your lunch money and take your wallet and kick you in the face until you get back to work and make me some more money. Oh.
Yeah, it's really crazy. It's true. You look at it like what
in my opinion
is going on. It's like he's supposed to be so busy, you don't even hear nothing from him. But now everybody sees that's blatant showing you that he's just a puppet. He's just a puppet. They're spitting in our face. Any logical person can say, well, why isn't he busy? And even other people in the country, like when we look at all of these other countries, it's a show. It is a show. There's something behind the scene running all these countries, and something scientific that points toward that. Notice when the pandemic happened, hey, everybody was on board. There wasn't no more disagreement with countries all of a sudden. That exposed something behind every country, including China. They're all, something is controlling the entire earth.
You said everyone was agreeing about what topic, MD?
The what?
everyone was in agreement about which topic?
About the jab. You know what I'm saying? No countries.
Also about Antarctica before the jab too. Something's in Antarctica.
Well, think about it. The jab, there were, I think, 3 African countries that went against it. All 3 of those guys ended up toast. All 3 of them ended.
Supposedly, I think it was Sweden, or there was some Scandinavian country, possibly Norway or something like that.
Sweden didn't impose the mask or the 6-foot thing, but I'm not sure if they did the. Let me say if Sweden did Sweden force vaccine the thing during pandemic. See,
yeah, in my opinion, too. Thank you. I'm glad we got some awake people around here.
Yeah, they're saying it didn't force it, according to the thing. All jabs in Sweden were strictly voluntarily, but it still had it. You see what I'm saying? The 3 African countries said, look.
Give people the option to be dumb, you know what I mean? But you gotta give people the option to be free. When you try,
but isn't it funny?
No.
Isn't it funny how Sweden? It's like Sweden, despite the lack mandate, achieved high jab rates because Sweden has over 6,000 people that are chipped. I don't know if you knew that. Voluntarily,
they actually did it. People actually fall. Wow.
People in Sweden, it's illegal to have THC in your blood in Sweden and Norway too.
Oh, I didn't know that.
When Snoop Dogg went there, I think they made him take like a blood test or something.
Really?
Yeah, wow. Like definitely had to take a piss test. There, it's like you wonder. I remember one guy told me, he said, you know why they outlawed cannabis for so long? He goes, it's hard to lie. He goes, when somebody smokes a joint or something, or the peace pipe, he goes, this is what the natives were about, to see, okay, let's see what the real you is like. Kind of like when somebody gets drunk, what do they say? The drunk mind speaks a sober heart. So you don't really like these drugs can actually bring out the real person without having to spend time and be betrayed. You say, you know what, take a puff of this peace pipe with us and let's see how you act.
I like their version of it because another thing that I've heard is that when you trip on LSD, that you'll have a really bad trip if you're kind of living a lie or putting on a persona or a facade or whatever, And I've never, I've done it, I don't know, at least a dozen times. Yeah. And I've always had good, amazing, just spiritual type of like very amazing experiences on it. And where I just feel closer with people, closer to nature, because I don't live a lie. I'm honest. I don't need to be drunk to tell the truth. I don't need to, if you feel like you have to lie about what you're doing, maybe you should change what you're doing. I'm not saying that you got to be rich. Or if you don't got a lot of money, why are you going to lie about it? If you're, why would you live a lie? So to me, I feel very free, and I'm always laughing with other, and everyone's always like, Jake, why are you in such a good mood all the time? Why are you? Because, everyone goes through ups and downs in life, but you got to enjoy life as much as you can at any point in your life. And if you're living an honest and true life, and the thing is, I like all these people are almost having like a mental breakdown. I feel what's called, it's like a shatter inside your mind when your reality becomes distorted, because these people thought the red team or the blue team was going to be their Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. That's how they treat them. Now me, I'm not surprised when this stuff comes out. I know all these people are corrupt, evil people that end up rising to the top of politics. At least 95% of them, in my opinion.
And I would say even higher, 99.
I knew that a long time ago. Now everyone's like, "Oh my God, did you know?" Like, yeah, I knew like over a decade ago. You didn't? Like, you know what I mean?
Yes. You know what it is, people. I remember this girl. We were in a bookstore years ago, and we were talking with a few friends, and she literally said, "You're making me lose trust in the justice system." And we looked at her, and we were like, "What?" They're like, "We were like, you trusted," and it was so sad because I saw how it kind of shattered her world. I apologized to her because she was like shaking.
Real?
No, she was shaking, and I was like, you know what? I said, look, just believe what you're going to believe. I said, if you're going to listen to our conversation, then this is what we talk about. And she had a friend come and pick her up, and I was just like, and a friend was mad, and I was just like, look, hey, if we talk about things, if it shocks you too much, then hey, now you know that, all right, we're not going to shrink to make you comfortable, but we're not going to attack you verbally or anything. But when I saw just how fragile most people's mind is, I realized, I said, you know what? I don't need to try to wake this person up, because it can actually
back down in your pod.
yeah, it can be dangerous. You already know it can be dangerous. One of my friends, his girlfriend, right? She literally told him that people that didn't get their kids jabbed should be reported. And I was like, bro, don't you ever tell her anything about me. If she asks, tell her the jab. I said, lie to her. And he doesn't, he tries to make excuses and stuff because he didn't get jabbed. And he always gets into arguments. I said, listen, one day, I said, hopefully it doesn't happen. I said, but she will turn you in. I said, you're playing with fire, man. I told him, you're playing with fire, bro. And she ain't a looker either, man. They're like, I mean, it's brutal.
He's desperate. That's the dating market nowadays. He's just desperate. He's scared to be alone. He'd rather take, a bag of garbage, that golden retriever you call a woman.
Oh my god. Yeah, she's kind of Lord of the Rings, man. Definitely creature Lord of the Rings, something from, I don't know whether it's the hobbits or the dwarves or the orcs or the
gollum or the
something, man. But it's brutal. It's brutal. I didn't, he kind of knows it. He's not saying she's a beauty queen. And I'm like, bro, I'm like, all the stuff you do for her to come out of her face and say that. That's when I was like, look, please, you got to be smart. Don't tell her anything. She will rat everybody.
That's right.
Yeah.
That she will. The fact that men think that women care about which man impregnated them is funny. Like that guy, I don't know if he has a kid with her or not. I mean, the point is, it doesn't matter. Women do not care about the man in their life because he is replaceable, boom, by the snap of their fingers. So they don't care. If you don't agree with them politically, and women don't really have these independent thoughts.
It's not all.
It's whatever. Again, it's not all politicians either. There's that one guy that sleeps on his cops in the office when he has to be in the Capitol. But when he goes back to his state, he just goes back to his modest house. He lives off his modest, his Congress salary, whatever. But 95% of them, just like the majority, the vast majority, way over 50% of people's political opinions are whatever's brainwashed into them by whichever algorithm. Social media, in my opinion, it's whatever the algorithm feeds them. That the algorithm figures out pretty quick. Oh, you're a man. You're in this age bracket. These are the advertisements we're going to show you. This is the algorithm we're going to feed you. And if you don't have critical thought to dissect things or look up things specifically that you want to watch, and you just get fed and consume whatever the algorithm feeds you, you will think a certain way. And that is the vast majority of people, especially Americans, because they have no critical thought. So it doesn't matter, what this woman, or you don't need to know all about her. I know what algorithm she is fed, so I know how she is brainwashed. Therefore, I know generally what her opinions and thoughts and things are going to be, because they're not hers. Because the majority of people are American zombies, programmed by the architects of humanity.
Yeah.
Man. Great.
It's pointing toward that, man. Ashar is right. Any form of control is abuse. It's so true. Timothy Leary said it best. Never respect authority in any way, shape, or form. It's an illusion. It is. If somebody is not taking care of you, it's like, wait a minute, why am I even listening to you? And then you realize, oh, it's because you're threatening. They're directly threatening us with death or imprisonment. That's the only reason we're listening to them. Our water is being.
I love when you say that. Just because you don't want to be freezing under a bridge. I love when you say that, MD, because that is a reality that a lot of Americans are looking at nowadays, with the price of rent and housing and gas and vehicles and the cost of living. Until a politician makes the cost of living the same as it was 50 years ago, so that people can work 40 hours and live a comfortable life in a first world country. I'm not talking about struggling to get by with 2 or 3 jobs. Or, all these people struggling. Like, the majority, the average American should be living a comfortable life. It's not about.
You're gonna love this one by Diogenes. He's saying being proud of your country is like a maggot being proud of the dead, rotting flesh it was born out of. And I'm like, man, this dude is one of the deepest philosophers ever. So basically,
what was the name of the philosopher?
Diogenes, Diogenes, Diogenes.
Wow.
He said, yeah, I mean, I'm looking for the quote now because it's like the other one that I said was from Bukowski, actually. Charles Bukowski was, I mean, he was deep. I mean, that guy, he really, yeah, Diogenes said patriotism is biological waste. Being proud of your nation is like a maggot being proud of the rotting meat it was born in. That is deep. That is another level of deepness. I'm seeing if I can find the Bukowski one, because Bukowski says the 40-hour work week is a completely normalized hostage situation. You rent your effing flesh to a corporate psychopath just to avoid freezing to death under a bridge. That is so true, bro.
Yeah, that's the one that I've heard you say in a couple streams, a few streams ago. I've heard you mention it a couple times, and man, I love that quote. That one is beautiful.
Thanks, man. These guys, I got to give them credit, man. The thinkers, man, the thinkers that say, hey, you know what? It just, and you think about it. They say they tell you to save your pennies so you can finally start living when you're 70, impotent and half dead. It's a sick effing joke designed to keep you tethered to a desk while your youth evaporates into the fluorescent lights of a cubicle. Bukowski was brutal, man. He just, you know, he said, one of his things that I remember, he says, look, find what you love and let it kill you. And I'm like, wow, that is just,
this is good quotes, man. Wow. He's a really great thinker.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, Diogenes, man, when I look at some of his stuff is so deep. Like he said, time is the only life you had. You miserable workaholic. You sell your heartbeat for pennies and die a rich corpse who never actually lived. It's like, even if you get money, he's like, look, time is really, I mean, these guys, I mean, Diogenes used to say stuff. One time they said he was waiting on a prostitute. I think he was from Greece, and that she didn't show up. So he beat off in front of the crowd, and everybody was like, oh my goodness. And he said, yeah, if only I could cure my hunger by rubbing my stomach. So in other words, he's showing like, look, I can cure my lust by rubbing my member. But if I could just cure my hunger by rubbing my stomach, that would be great too. So like some of the stuff that it was just beyond like the ordinary stuff, to where I'm just like, wow. Like Nietzsche says, bend the knee long enough and you pathetic cowards will start calling your slavery a virtue. And that's what we see. That's what we see. The MAGAs, they think that their slavery is a virtue, and they're trying to convince us that too. That they're trying to convince us, like, look, man, this is a good thing, man. You know, hey, vote harder next time. You know, I'm like, I can't even. Yeah, it's.
And I've used your quote. I've actually started saying it to people now that people are starting to wake up and realize that, wait, Trump said he was going to make peace and not make war, and he was going to, fix our national debt, and he was going to make American lives better. And then what do you know? It was another politician that lied again. Like, if you didn't follow the track record for the last several decades, like, wow, what a surprise, what a shocker. And now people are. I started telling people now, when they start talking about politics, I'm like, I've used your quote, MD. I say, I think voting is like writing a letter to Santa Claus and asking him or trying to tell him how to run the North Pole. I mean, that should be a quote, MD, by you, because that's a deep one right there. And this girl was a fucking toxic. This girl was talking to me, and she ended up being a hardcore leftist, liberal, whatever. And I told her that statement. She said, that's a good quote. I said, I know it is, because I told her about, I don't care. I'm not letting any politician ain't voting until the cost of living starts going down, until someone has a plan to make the cost of living be reasonable. There is no reason for me to vote. And then, she didn't like it. Obviously, she's a crazy leftist, and I could not, tolerate her. I told her to stop talking about politics around me, but she couldn't do it. And she was admitted she's addicted to social media, whatever. But then when I tell her that voting is like writing a letter to the North Pole and telling Santa Claus how he should run the North Pole, like she realized like how stupid and useless voting is. Like you said, just vote harder. Like, it doesn't change anything. It's so, we're at a point now. I'm hoping we're getting to a point. I don't think we'll ever be there though, where MAGA-tards are, sick of it. Leftards are sick of it. And then if the population wasn't obese and poisoned and lazy and not and too weak to rise up and actually do something about it, I'm not, inciting anything here. I'm just saying do something about it. Like, there have been times in the past where people didn't like the government, did something about it, and then actually got a better change until it was corrupted again. Of course, it's only a matter of time. But I think we're getting closer to that. But I think Americans are too weak, purposely too weak and too lazy to do anything about it. So, write a letter, vote harder. Like none of that matters. Until the population starts taking control of themselves, not being fat, lazy, unable to use critical thought. Yet nothing's going to change. So
no. Well, look at it this way. What was that quote in Kill Bill? He said, "You were the worm trying to fight the eagle," and that's the position. It's that bad. It might even be worse. And what does the worm got to do? Take cover. That's the only thing. The worm can't fight the eagle. We know as being veterans, yeah, you got the right to bear arms and all of that. Any gun law is unconstitutional. I don't need a crook telling me whether I can own a gun or not. When you look at that, or a weapon, better yet said, I look at that and I say to myself, okay, say we do have weapons. Say we got machine guns. These guys got helicopters that we paid for. They got jets. They got tanks. There's no resistance.
They went into, I think it was Venezuela or Cuba, wherever they went into. I almost never watch the news, but when something pops up on YouTube news feed, whatever, I'll see what's going on in the world. I guess this is keeps popping up. So let me see. Oh, well, apparently there was a report that the Venezuelans or Cubans, whoever it was, when they went and captured the president, something like that, there was like hundreds of men that tried to defend, their president, supreme ruler, whatever stupid title they gave them. And they said they couldn't think or concentrate or hear, and they just dropped their weapons. Right. So they're using some type of mental mind control, disoriented type of laser focus, sonar, laser technology, something like that, right? And you're telling me if you got a machine gun, but you can't even think or feel, and you got to put your hands on your ears, you can't use that machine gun. The government has technology light years beyond what you could even buy, so you can buy as many machine guns as you want or whatever. It ain't going to be no match for the technology that we have paid for the government to use to control us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, look at LRAD, the stuff that, the sound, sonic stuff that they use to just control crowds. It's like Tesla was saying, they got weapons that will produce horrors, and they've already, I think, ICE has used it on people. Brian Nichols, what's up, bro? He says change comes from within. Yeah. And you know what? Things that can't be destroyed from the outside always get destroyed from the inside. So we see the big and the powerful always crumble from the inside. This is why they get mad when we breathe too hard next to their house of cards, because it'll crumble. Words are very powerful. If the fact that they have propaganda, billions of dollars every year, shows us the situation is not hopeless. But as they get more and more advanced, they're using us to create stronger chains to put on us. And we don't know what to do, because half the population, more than half the population, are against anybody who thinks. It's like the gangs in New York, when the poor rose up and started killing the rich, and they all went to a certain area. And he goes, look, if it really gets bad, we can always pay one half of the poor to kill off the other half. They've got that down to a science, to where they're paying not less than 1/10 of the poor to kill off the 90% to keep us all under control. I mean, the fact that, look at the price of gas. They stole oil from Venezuela, and gas goes up.
Thank you. Yeah, Trump saying, oh, we got all this gallon and gas prices are going to go down because we took all this oil from them and everything like that. And next thing you know, what do you know? A few months later, gas prices are higher than they've ever been, for a long time. And what happened to all that oil that we got? I thought gas prices were coming down. Nope. Your Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, Trump, lied to you again. What do you know? Because he's a politician.
Yeah. And the word, it says it itself. politics, the art of being shrewd, the art of deception. The word literally means that, just the way government means mind control.
Wow. I just said that to the girl I went on a date with or whatever, and she said, really? She looked it up right there at the table, whatever, you know, because I just took it out for one drink, and I was like, yeah, this girl is, I'm not hooking up with this girl, because she's like, you know, one of those crazy people that I just don't want to get caught up in anything. And I was just like, yeah, have a nice night. And I was out of there. You know, I just bought one drink for each of us, and that was it. And like, dude, I ain't spend a bunch of money on this, because as we're, you know, I texted her for about a week, talked to her on the phone, you know, really good. But then, you know, when we get in person, she just couldn't control herself about all the leftist views and all this. And you know, it's been going back and forth for decades, several decades. And the only thing that changes is the cost of living goes up. So it don't matter which side wins, the average American loses, guaranteed every time. And then she just didn't like that. She didn't like to hear that her side wasn't the Lord and Savior, and it was the other side is the devil, and the other side thinks the same thing. And it's like, you guys are idiots to think that politicians are going to fix your life. Only thing that's going to work is that if things get reset, and I'm not inciting anything, nothing like that. Oh, no. But that's the only time things really change. And there's going to be some hardship, but when people have nothing to lose, and I think we're getting close to that point, Americans are pretty fed up with the way things are running. When there's nothing left to lose, there's only one option to cause a reset. So I think we're getting close to that. I think they know, and I think that's why they're pushing harder and faster now for whatever agenda they got going on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like to use the quote, but it was said that if you rise up, the only thing you chance to lose is your chains. You know, people don't want to lose their chains. They want to make them gold. You know, because that's why I don't wear chains. Or I tell people a chain is a chain, man. Whether it's made of gold or steel, it's meant for bondage. And these people are wearing these fat. Look at all the rappers. They wear these fat gold links, just idolizing their slavery, idolizing it, man. The gold chains around their neck. You know, sneakers.
They should wear a dog tag on it. I don't know what kind of symbols, medallions, whatever they're wearing at the end of their chain, but they should just put a dog tag on it. And it should just say property of greed, corruption, lust, well, whatever that they're hostage to.
They can't be trusted. They'll turn on you in a minute. They'll act all gangster and all this stuff, and they'll turn informant at the drop of a dime. This is why there is no revolution. People will rat each other out. It's kind of like the picture that I put in the community post by Renton. It was I think it was what was it called? I had it here on the thing. The arrest of
indeed. Well, you're talking about like the military and the veterans, how they're purposely trying to delete them, because the only thing that's real is brotherhood, not this fake, you know, consumerism, all this stuff. Whatever, people will sell people after that. In a brotherhood, you wouldn't do that. In a real brotherhood, and you're trained and taught that in the military. They are afraid that people will bond together and actually form, you know, a brotherhood, a coalition, to where, you know, they care about morals more than their golden handcuffs, whatever, you know, type of possessions or money, whatever we're trying to defend.
We're trained to be like, hey, you know, the fact that we went in there and we did our time, we came out, shows that we're not afraid to die, man. Most people are afraid to live, and we're saying, look,
most people are so afraid to die that they're scared to live.
Yep.
I love that quote.
Thanks, man. And we see this, and it's not to say that you have to be a veteran to see this. People can take example from us, because there's a lot of veterans that will still support Trump and all of that. They'll be like, oh no, you know, their president, right or wrong. We're like, hell no, I'm not supporting no PDF.
When I see people flying a "Don't Tread on Me" flag in front of their house, I'm like, okay, there's someone who's awake, because they're not flying an American flag. They're not, you know, repping. They don't have certain political yard signs in their yard, red team or blue team or whatever. They have a "Don't Tread on Me" flag. That means leave me the F alone. And those are one of the few people that are awake. I love that flag.
A few, but then even them, you got to be careful. You know, you never know. A lot of them,
they can't all be
right. You look at, because remember, America has a serious child problem, and most of it comes from the biological fathers. This is a statistical fact. And you look at some of these places, like you look at the Mormons, you look at not all, but you look at the "Don't Tread on Me" flags and stuff like that. The real people, right, don't fly a flag. Those are the real motherfuckers. You know,
That's why it's to fly any flag, because if that flag gets associated with a certain group or whatever, I don't want to be associated with them. But
Exactly.
okay, there's hope. There's hope for that person, but it doesn't mean you can automatically trust them. Doesn't mean that they're necessarily awake. It just means that they saw some type of algorithm of brainwashing. Because everyone's got to be on social media nowadays.
Also, look at it this way: with what we see today, it would only be smart not to advertise. So if you're advertising, you don't want to get attention, because if you get attention, that's firing squad.
That's like people who open carry. Like, you are an idiot. You are the first one getting taken out in the back of the head. If there ever is a situation, concealed carry makes way more sense.
Yeah.
People want to think they're tough or something like that. No, it makes no sense. It's the same thing. Open carrying is the same thing as flying a flag or speaking out or whatever. So I come to this place anonymous. No one knows whatever. This is one of the only places I can ever speak my real thoughts, without the chance of getting found out or whatever. It's like you are an idiot if you're advertising. I completely agree with you, MD.
Thanks, man. I had put the stream up for basically skull worship and the cults of death, right? And when I looked at evolution, when you look at this picture, evolution is basically worshiping skulls. It's basically everything with evolution is worshiping skulls and bones. I don't know if you've ever noticed that, but
that's a great image that you got right there. That's a great image.
Thanks, man. It just, and then I showed, like, nothing against people who are Christian, but why would you have a picture of a guy hanging dead on a cross? Wouldn't you want to look at him when he was healthy or something?
That's the thing, man, is that so I've been learning about Christianity for the past, 6-8 months, somewhere around there. I gotta tell you, man, the more I learn about it, the more things that are coming up that I just don't agree with. I cannot subscribe to any group, any religion, and anything, but there is some truth in the Bible. I know there's some truth
in all religious books. They got a piece of the puzzle. Definitely.
There's some truths. And so whenever, I've been studying for the past over a decade, however long I've been studying this stuff, 15, 20 years, whatever it is, it always comes down to the human origins, which is Architects of Humanity is a great channel, so we can dig into that. Because if you're looking for the truth, you can't subscribe to any religion, because they all eventually come to a point where they say, just have faith. No, that is not scientific. That is not discovering the truth. That's not, based on, historical documents or facts or anything. Just have faith is a bullshit excuse to say they don't know the answer, but just follow our rituals and cult anyway. No. I do not subscribe to any of that.
Yeah. No, exactly, man. This is something where the fact that they were censoring people shows just how powerful conversations are. The fact that they're doing stuff like that because they know that
flat earthers is actually debunked or this or whatever. It's like, well, why would you need propaganda? Why would you need to add these?
I don't agree with it. I don't agree with it, but I remember telling Scribe, I said, look, man, I don't think it should be censored. I said, I definitely think some of this stuff is a lot of BS, because I told him, I said, look, why don't we start a GoFundMe and rent a plane? I said, we'll rent a plane and we'll fly and we'll do the charts and stuff. And Jamal did say that when they're flying, they do factor in the curvature. So I was like, okay. I said, and we went over some flight map stuff. This is the scientific way to say, look, if you really believe in it, I think you got some background noise, Jake. If you really believe in it, right, you would go forward and do the research. Like I'm doing the research on human origins. I'm saying, okay, I'm diligently doing research every day. And that's the way you go forward with what you want to find out to be true. Say, okay, let me test it to see if it'll stand the test of time.
I like your method, your theory, and the GoFundMe, because the fact is you do need money to do some of this research. The fact is that the government has plenty of money to do this research. Instead of throw a disclaimer up and say, don't use critical thought, don't do experiments, don't actually try to look for the truth, just believe what we tell you. That's
he said it's not about freedom, it's about money. He goes, you're free to go anywhere, try to do it without money. It's about, you got to have that. And that's just what it is. Mr. X says evolution is also faith based on the miracle of time. Yeah, it totally is. Brother Ali, good to see you, brother. Always, man. It just, we are in some type of experiment, because that's the best thing I can put it as, the United States of experiments. I don't know if you heard
when you were crashing out the other day, we were like, what is this? I related to that so much. Why am I here in this piece of shit world? And I'm just enslaved. And I was like, man, I related to it so much. It's like on this piece of shit earth, this is like a jail sentence or something that,
Well,
really.
you know what I think it is? I think, and like Mr. X and I were having a conversation about it, is to say, look, we see what's wrong in our face. And if, maybe we go someplace to say, hey, you know what? We gave you a chance to fight evil, but you chose not to do anything. Not to say anybody, like we said, we're not trying to incite nothing. We're just saying, look, this is a speculation to say, yeah, what about that? Well, what about the fact that, nobody can look, there's a study from the Great Lakes, right? They were finding fish from the chemicals that were in the water turning hermaphroditic. The seagulls that ate the fish had hermaphroditic children. So I'm saying, okay, so now you're telling me that people eating food that the chemicals are in the water, and then they're finding out that their kids don't know what to classify themselves as, people identifying, saying, they're a cat and a dog. And I'm like, holy smokes. This is a mental illness on another level. It's like people who believe in evolution. Hey, if you want to identify as an ape, fine. That doesn't mean we came from apes. And you see a lot of people identifying as an ape without even knowing they're identifying as an ape, because they believe in the religion of evolution, which is basically, we know now, skull worship. They're worshiping skulls and bones. It's a cult of death, just the way Christianity, Islam, all the religions, now there's good people in these religions, every single one, but the majority are straight cult of death.
If people focused on, instead of whatever this religion says, because eventually there's going to come to a point where you're going to come in a crossroad, just like these magatards are finding out, just like these libtards are finding out, where if you have morals, you can't stick to a certain team, whether it be religion, politics, anything in life. You cannot stick to a certain team if morals are what you're going to stand on. So what are you going to do about it, right? You said you got to do something to fight against this evil. To me, I volunteer a lot now to try to give back to the community. Once or twice a week, I do these volunteer events, because what I can do, what I have control over, is I can at least help the local community that I'm a part of, and try to give back, try to help people who need help. And if everyone helped each other, then it would make the world a little bit better of a place. Instead, people want to get online and just, do all this like social signaling, whatever. I'm on this team, I'm on that team, whatever. It's like none of the teams are all good. You know what I mean? Or all bad. So if everyone helped each other out, right, you would realize, like, hey man, like, we need a little more help here. Who has all the money? Oh, the 1% has all the money and they're hoarding it and using it for evil purposes. Maybe we should focus our attention on them. Eventually that's where you come to, and people do not understand that these people, they divide and conquer. They divide by race, divide by religion, divide by this, divide by that. If we all group together and then we did something about it, then that would make a real change. But people are too stupid and want to hold fast to their team instead of morals.
Well, think about this. The natives were right. If somebody pollutes the air and the water and the land, that's an act of war against the people. People don't even know how to identify when something is an act of war against them. The natives did. The natives said, look, this land is their mother. If somebody cuts your mother's face and stitches it back up, or somebody you care about, you're going to go to war. And that's the railroad. They said, look, they cut the face of the country. They stitched it up. For what? To strip mine the continent. It's as if the architects of humanity have sent people out to strip mine the continent, and they use the people on the surface who somehow either escaped or were released onto the surface, and just basically making it through this minefield called nature. You look at nature, if you don't got technology, you just pray. So it's like you have,
people would try to use their iPhone. Siri, find me the closest deer. You know what I mean? Like they would not have any idea how to survive without technology and grocery stores and all this stuff. And the fact that there's floating islands of garbage in our oceans, that's an act of war. It's disgusting how people don't care about this.
They're finding microplastics in the placenta of newborn babies. The babies, they have a name for the first bowel movement that the baby has. They're finding microplastics in that. We're basic, and nobody cares. This Japanese science
in bottles, and we would recycle the bottles. You melt down the glass and make new bottles. You put the bottles in recycling, and that was not poisoning people enough. So now they start putting everything in plastic, and now we're seeing the results of it. It wasn't a mistake. We knew that way back, decades ago, that things should be in bottles.
In the plastics, in the micro and the nanoplastics. You got the hormone disruptors, the bisphenol A and stuff like this, which they know causes imbalances. We have that. We have the atrazine in the water. We have whatever is being, that we see all around us in the air. Now they have, anybody can look it up. They have, and it's not brand new. It's been out, inhalable jabs. So now they don't have the jab is inhalable now, man. Anybody can look this up.
Flu shots for a while where it's like a nasal spray thing, whatever. And in the military, it was optional, if you want to do that or not. I would never get the flu shot. Like, why would people like, you just use a nasal spray? It's just like, I had to get that thing. That was a flu shot. I bet there's a bunch of other crap in there. Ain't that I didn't take? But in the military, like a lot of times
I remember having the machine. Remember that machine that they inoculate people with? You're all in a line, and it pressurizes it into your arm. I remember having to walk down that
sleeves and walk through a line, get jabbed a couple times, whatever, because you ain't got no choice and that stuff. The flu shot was optional. I never took it. Whatever was optional, I never took it. And some people will go stand in line for it. They're like, well, it's free.
If it's optional, I ain't trying to take it. If it's optional, I mean, it's bad enough I had to take the ones I took, which were with that machine that they, it was like a compressor. The air
that's exactly what it was like.
Yeah, and you look at that and you say to yourself, man, that's like cattle. That's like something they do to farm animals, walking down the line, getting jabbed, touching everybody with the same thing. And I'm like, you're young, 18. I mean, when I look at the stupidity of it, thank goodness I already knew that government was corrupt. So it wasn't like I decided, I never voted, so I was like, well, who am I voting for? The gun. That's the vote, the lead and the
powder. We saw how the government operated, by halfway through, I was like, there's no way I'm re-enlisting, and I never trusted the government again. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. And people, when I look at today, the people that support Trump, like there's a guy that goes out there and he, any politician, if they support, they already, laws of stupidity, but he was interviewing people, and it was funny because they would start to walk away when he presented facts. I mean, right here, anybody can look up NPR, National Progressive Radio, has identified dozens of defendants with prior convictions or pending charges for crimes including rape, sexual essay of a minor, and domestic violence, and more. Now, this is the criminal records of January 6 rioters pardoned by Trump. So you had people with pending charges of rape, essay of minors. They got pardoned by this monster.
And they're on the red team, but the red team don't want to talk about that. That's why you cannot identify with any of these teams.
Yeah, they don't want to talk about that, just like the blue team don't want to talk about Creepy Joe sniffing on children's hair. They're all PDF files, bro, in my opinion.
And Joe's son and the laptop and all that. All some people forgot about that, even though people knew. They were reporting what was on the laptop. They didn't care.
Yeah, no shame. I mean, when the president's son is a blatant crackhead, it's like, I mean, how low?
Yeah, file. You blame it's all on there, videotaped, images, photographed, and then the blue team didn't care. They still supported him. The red team is finding out that Trump went to a certain island. The red team don't care. I'm on Team Red. So anyone who identifies with a team and that's all they care about, no, I do not support any team or associate or align myself with any team. I align myself with with what's right and what's morally right, not any team, because some teams have certain things they like, certain things they abide by, but now I'm going to bend the rules for this, or my Lord and Savior, whoever the leader is of the certain time of that team, like, well, even if he does something bad, I already entrenched myself in this team, so I can't turn back on my beliefs and my identity. People think that's their identity. What team do I identify with? No, your identity should be doing the right thing, but people are too dumb to realize that.
Yeah, the laws of stupidity, man. Bonhoeffer, I think they're coming out with a movie with him. Dietrich Bonhoeffer was one of the men that opposed World War II, and he was from Germany. He was a Lutheran priest. He was a minister, and he was like, "Look, man, we don't need to be listening to this guy." He spoke out. He goes, especially the Fuhrer, and they arrested him, put him in the camp, and he got hung. I think executed like 10 days or something before the Americans had, liberated that camp. And it was sad because you're looking at a guy that's so smart. He was like, the reason these guards would kill him, he said, it's because of stupidity. Stupidity is more dangerous than evil, than straight out malicious evil, because the stupid guy is the guy that drops the grenade. He doesn't mean to, he's on our side. He's a good guy. He's just so stupid. He drops the grenade. So he's worse than the enemy. But
I wonder, is it stupidity or are they Agent Smiths?
No, they're not Agent Smiths, because if we look at these people, we know people like this. We know in the military, somebody's like, okay, we know this guy's on our side, but you can't let him hold the grenades because he's going to do something stupid. He literally wants to fight.
Yeah, usually those people during pre-deployment training get weeded out, but some of them still slip through the cracks. You know what I mean? So I definitely.
You got the amount of stupid people in the military is scary. It's like the cops. You can see pictures, videos of cops. One lady cop was trying to get the guy out. The other cop tased her by accident, and I'm like, that's stupidity right there. Stupidity at that moment. The cop was more dangerous to her than the criminal itself. So you see that the evil wasn't as dangerous as stupid. And what the malicious do, they've weaponized the stupid. So now we're like, holy smokes. They've weaponized the stupid against anybody left that can critically think. We're the minority, the intelligent people, anybody who could think for themselves and say, hey, you know what? I don't think something looks right. I think putting chemicals in the water is not a good idea. And you'll have people say, well, and they'll make excuses. That person, we already know right there, is a minion of the state. Like you look at these channels with the skull worship, fake Professor Dave, Anton Petrov, that's another zombie. They have a few more that are just pro-evolution. They're basically skull worship. Because that's basically what they need to be called, skull worshipers. They worship these skulls of apes and humans, and they try to say, oh, look, this one was turning into this one. The stupidity is on a level of insanity at this point. I've seen people, anything they find, oh, look, this is another clue to evolution. And I'm like, man, this is serious. This is serious. So they say, I think in one, Senator Markey joins colleagues, and he's saying resolution comes after Trump pardons 1,500. I didn't know he pardoned that many. Holy smokes. Holy smokes. This is crazy, bro.
He's got to have some friends to party with on the island.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. But yeah, it's almost one over here, man. I appreciate you coming on, Jake, man. I'm gonna.
Yeah, I appreciate you streams going again. And I was listening to the last few or several, trying to catch up, and I love the new name of the channel. I think it's great. I'm hoping that maybe get some success with some of your books. It's
yeah.
I hope a lot of people don't want to wake up, but man, hopefully you can find some other survivors, because like you said, man, it's dangerous to try to wake up some of these stupid people. And you they might just rat on you because they're Agent Smiths, you know, and
yeah.
just never
I mean,
know.
that's why I figured human origins, and the human origins, where the evidence has taken me is an amazing place, and it's based totally on science. It's saying, look, man, melanin seems to be added to the human organism. It isn't even seems to be, it is. So when we look at that, we start to see our original form is the albino form for everybody. And then melanin is added. So as I progress to get this published, I also am putting in, like, on the half of the book, how to debunk all of the skull worship and stuff, and say, look, all of this stuff is trying to say that it's a transition, but it's debunked already. And so half of the book, would probably be that. But yeah, man, I appreciate it. It's 12:50. Everybody in the chat, man, thank you so much. Jake, Mr. X, Sons of Space came on. Thank you, and we'll talk again soon, probably tonight.